Good evening, everyone, to the Tuesday, September 21st meeting of what I am now officially calling the All Hands meeting. We're delighted to have so many representatives and officials from all respective boards, departments, etc. But before we begin, I actually found a little flag that I'd love everyone to join, saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, really the goal tonight, and one of the things Board of Selectmen has tried to do in the past, obviously in concert with everyone here, is just have a very informal discussion. Just kind of provide updates on who's doing what, and what problems that you're facing, as well as what opportunities do you see. Because I think, in general, I'd like to think that we all partner together well when we do. I think the problem is we don't partner together enough. Like sometimes I'm not sure what the planning board's doing, they don't know what we're doing, Board of Health's off doing their thing, and it's not bad because everyone should have their silos because we're all elected or appointed to do specific things. But the more we can have that Venn diagram so we all can have an idea around what things are happening and what challenges that we're going to be facing, I just think the better off sometimes that we can have, more of a united front. I know we have a couple of representatives from the school departments here, so thank you. Again, I think that's another area that I want to continue to cultivate our relationship, whether it be capital planning, overall operations, et cetera. So as the town's creating its municipal budget, it allows us the opportunity to say, all right, XYZ school might be needing something in the next couple of years. Bay Path might be wanting something else in a few years. Let's put that into our capital plan and make it all make sense. So personally, that's something that I'd like to look forward to. So what I was thinking about tonight, and really this is just like a true round robin discussion. Obviously, I see Roger, Kristen, even though she's the finance committee, still in back. Any questions? I want you guys to speak up too. Really, just a very friendly convo for once. We can all go back to getting each other's throats tomorrow. But for now, let's have some fun. Anything else on the Board of Selectmen before we continue? Cool. No. Well, I've asked the esteemed superintendent of the Charlton Recreation school system to kind of kick us off tonight. And Steve, just basically, what's going on?
I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm starting my third year here in the Dudley Charlton Regional School District. This is my first meeting like this that I've attended in the community of Charlton or even Dudley. What's going on? We are emerging like you wouldn't believe. I won't take it personal that I'm sitting alone as the superintendent. Just kidding. But the good news is we're hitting our stride now. We're really getting back into routines. Like when I left the campus this evening to come over here, the amount of people that are outside in the parking lot, the marching bands, the track and field event that's going on, it feels wonderful. It feels as close to pre-COVID as we could possibly get. And we're continuing down that process. We're getting ready to approve out-of-state and overnight field trips this week with school committee. So we're really getting, we're in a good pathway right now to getting back to pre-COVID type experiences for our students. Walking the halls, visiting the schools. It's just the excitement is still there, but there's a certain calmness when you see the routines happening where people are used to getting off the bus. They know where to go in the classrooms, in the schools. They know when to have lunch. All those routines without little things that interfered with over the past 18, 19 months. So that's really where I'm at. I'm just really enjoying that completely to see the overwhelming majority of our students just be routine oriented and falling within their schedules and their lives within our schools, because that's what it is. It's life in our schools, and we just have to continue to foster that and build on that and move forward. But I think our trajectory is strong, and I think that where we're going collectively as a community and as a school system is unbelievable in so many ways. You mentioned what are our needs? We have none. Just kidding.
No to the Bay Path superintendent.
It's the same. It's not unusual that we're going to still look at finances. We're looking at how we're using the ESSER money and all that kind of stuff. It's very complex right now. The one thing that we did spend money on for a grant was a facilities person who we're working with you. that we want to try to really take a deeper dive into our facilities, because they haven't been, my understanding is that when the override came through 4 years ago now, that there was a contemplation whether it would be a operating budget override or a capital improvement, and we went with the budget, which means the capital was put off again. So, there are some needs of the systems coming forward, but we want to work with you. We're developing a multi-year plan, 5 to 10-year plan for capital improvement with prioritization. Our new facilities gentleman, David, is going to be working hard with both the Dudley community and Charlton community to be part of the whole planning and communication process on that. But we want to be partners in the process. We don't, we're not here to take your money. We see it as a collective process together as a team moving forward. So that's really probably the biggest thing. Instructionally, we got a couple of exciting things going with our literacy in our K through 4 schools. It's the first time in 10 years we've had brain-based, research-based instructional materials that we've invested in them as a district, which is incredible. But not only that, a first grader here, a first grader there, they're all having access to the same instructional materials for the first time in many, many years. So that's really just overwhelmingly excited. We're looking at middle school mathematics. I brought it up at DCEF last night, and it was overwhelming. Thank you for looking at middle school mathematics. But it's, mathematics can be complex in the way we teach it nowadays anyways. But we're really going to take a strong look at that this school year for instructional purposes. But again, I think the trajectory is really strong. I think we're in a really good spot moving forward, and I'm excited for the two communities and for the students of Dudley Charlton.
No, thanks, Steve. And I mean, I think, again, I obviously invite other members of the board and everyone else to ask questions as well, but we're under no illusion on the Board of Selectmen that there aren't physical needs within the district. I mean, everyone knows CMS, needs a new roof. CES hasn't been updated in, I don't know, how many decades at this point?
90s, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so that obviously is gonna need some work. Shepherd Hill, I know there's always been the discussion around a rehab, et cetera. So obviously, major financial needs coming forth that we are aware of. So no one's pushing them off. I think to your point, we're just trying to partner to figure out what's needed when, how can we intertwine municipal needs at the same time, et cetera. So I think we're definitely all on the same page there. So, definitely looking forward to partnering on that. My question to you is, I think, or at least for now, outside of the budget stuff, is more qualitative. How are the kids and staff, for that matter, responding to being back in school after such a tumultuous year?
Well, the staff, I think the staff is still a concern for me, because what we ask them to do is not much different than what we ask parents to do with their kids. We overwhelm them. We overwhelm parents, we overwhelm staff. We obviously overwhelm students too, but staff are getting back to, but they built so many, a repertoire of so many tools to access and to use within the classroom. They're getting excited to use them within that instructional environment versus trying to be a multi-level teacher who's teaching remote, in person, all those levels that they were trying to do and get organized around. So, but staff still, we're concerned about burnout. We had one of our largest hiring years ever within the community, and I want to be clear, and we shared this last night at DCEF, the Dudley Charlton Education Foundation last night, it's not just the schools, it's everywhere. Hiring has been quite complex everywhere. So we've done a lot to hire good people, new people to come into our system, and we think that they're going to invigorate us as a district. It was probably about total of 55 people that we hired this year within our district, which is very large. But still exciting at the same time. We're bringing in new ideas and new ways of doing things, which is always exciting if you're on a path of continuous improvement, which we need to be on. But as far as students, there's no question, and it's hard to quantitatively put a value on the social aspect of school. We know, because we're social beings, we're human beings. But if you were to measure it, it would be an exponential growth with the fact that we've been in this school year in person for as long as we have been, because the students and everyone are coming together in such a social way that you just see the creative juices of being part of a collaborative environment, really happening well. So it's tough to quantitatively put that social adjustment that students have after going through what we went through last year. Even though we came back in person by the end of the school year, we still had such a large experience outside of that environment that anytime you come into the school year and you start something midway through the year, it always has some little hiccups to it that don't always ground itself into the, like I said earlier, normal routines. So starting the school year the way we did, having everyone in person made a huge difference, and it again, qualitatively, incredible. Absolutely incredible.
That's cool. Anything else from the Board of Selectmen?
I have a question. We're waiting for the decision to be made, right, for the extension on the mask wearing for the children. What are your predictions?
I'm gonna leave that up to Dave Patrick. No, today there was a Board of Education meeting, and we thought that they were maybe gonna discuss it a little bit further, but they really just talked a little bit about some data that's coming out at this point in time. I think one of the encouraging things is the word flat was used, that there's a flattening out of things, but there was actually no discussion about the mask mandate and where that's gonna go at this point in time.
So,
Nothing.
And how about the vaccinations for the kids? Do we keep the track of how many kids are getting vaccinated? Do we know?
Mass DPH keeps track of that. We as a school district do not keep track of that. We're in the 50th percentile for school-age children within the Charlton community. It's lower in the Dudley community. That's where it is at this point in time.
I think it's worth to bring it up that we talked about it yesterday, that the Boys and Girls Club are bringing the bus. It's gonna be sometime in November. We'll make sure everybody knows about it. It's gonna be a bus that will make vaccination process fun for kids if they are interested, but for the parents to bring them in there. It's gonna be in Webster at the Boys and Girls Club. If anybody's interested, we make sure everybody knows about it. So I think that was a very cool thing that you guys are doing.
And school-age children from Charlton can access it, can go to it
Yeah,
as well.
Webster
It's not
down
just
Charlton.
Dudley Webster, it's
Yeah.
Charlton students can go as well.
Yeah, super. Yeah.
Actually, Marcia, do you want to use this opportunity to make a cheap plug for some more volunteers?
Anybody wants to volunteer for that event? We do have a lot of people that are already willing, but yeah, we're always looking for the volunteers for the Dudley Charlton Educational Foundation. We are looking for about 8 people to join us with everything that's going on. What we're really looking for is parents or professionals, not necessarily people who do have the children in the schools, to come and help us out, make it all better. And it has been hard, so we're looking to make it as easy on everybody as possible. That's my message.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Hearing none. No, take that back.
Well, maybe,
No, that was-
well, I was asking, that my question would have been more for the Board of Health, and I don't want to put you guys on the spot.
Well, this is actually a nice segue. So I see 2 of our members here.
It
Mr. Sanborn,
is,
that's
it
So-
is.
so-
And
Actually, can we hold that for like 1 second for your question then? Let them talk first, because they might answer your question.
I haven't.
Exactly.
No, I know. Go right ahead. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
All right, so I'm John Sanborn, I'm the current chairman of the Board of Health, and with me is member Pete Lancet. Matt Gagner, we were actually on a Zoom call earlier with him, he could not make it tonight, he's in the dentist chair right now, and I'm sure he's.
Aren't we all, John?
Aren't we all?
Well, anyway, so that's where he is. And Jim Philbrook would normally be here speaking very eloquently, is on a well-deserved 1-week vacation. He returns either tomorrow or Thursday, I believe. So he's not here, so he would be the man with all the information, but I can speak in generalities at least. The 2 big concerns that the Board of Health currently has is of course, COVID and vaccine updates, and the amount of cases that we've seen in schools and in the community at large. But, and, well, as long as we're talking about that, it's actually, I think we have a proper amount of resources according to Mr. Philbrook. And of course, he's in constant communication with Andrew as far as what's going on, and probably with you too, Mr. LaMarche. But we have the resources to track this, and we're, of course, the big thing is trying to get people to get vaccinated and hopefully get less and less folks that are getting sick with this. So, until this is over, it's going to be quite a stretch of work for the Board of Health. The other issue that we have now is with Cemetery Gould Road, we have water contamination in some of the wells there. And there is an upcoming Department of Environmental Protection meeting. Supposedly, it was supposed to be before the end of this month, but I haven't heard anything. And that's going to be a public meeting. So there are a number of houses that are affected there. The contamination is not as great as it was on this loop here in the center of town. But it's still a concern, and we have Gary Magnuson from CMG Environmental working with the board and the DEP to try to get some resolution on that. There are some houses with point of entry treatment systems now, and as well as folks on bottled water. But the latest report that we heard, which took quite a long time, it was some sort of very specialized analysis of the radioisotopes or something in the gasoline molecules. Anyway, they are saying that this is not tied to ExxonMobil and 6 West, so that was kind of interesting. DEP is not just going to say, well, we're done with it, because there is obviously still some contamination in a number of wells there on those roads. So that will continue probably another year or 2 or 3, I'm sure.
I think that's a really good point. I'm sorry to interrupt, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
Often, we hear a lot of people in towns, oh, if officials don't have common sense, of course that's what it is. Because the first time I heard about, you know, the moving plume, et cetera, I was like, well, it's gotta be Exxon. It just has to be. But much smarter people than I took their time and did their research and basically have identified, no, it's not. So it's a completely different problem that we're having in town that we're gonna have to rectify. And that's a big deal. So what I probably recommend to everyone in here, as well as everyone watching at home, don't jump to conclusions when you first see something, because when you don't have all the facts, you can't make a good decision. Because let's say the Board of Health said, well, no, it's this, and they immediately went down one path. Well, it would have been wrong. But they did the smart thing and worked with the state to say, let's identify what's really happening, and come to find out, it's not what many people kind of assumed that it probably would have been. So I commend you guys on that, for one, because again, I think there was probably a lot of second guessing at the time. A lot of people saying, well, no, it's the same exact issue.
Yeah.
It's a cousin to the issue, but it's not the same source. So, you know, that's my little, I'll get off my pedestal in a second, but I just want to commend, like, you know, your team for that, because often we're put under the spotlight to say, get an answer right away. And the wheels of government don't move like that. Sometimes we wish they did, and sometimes we wish they didn't, because sometimes when we go fast, it's wrong.
Yeah.
So again, you know, very well done. Again, I'm sorry for the interruption. I just
No,
thought that
that's
was really
fine.
good.
That's really what I wanted to touch base on. These are the 2 big major issues that are ongoing and will be areas of concern for quite a while, probably. So, Pete, if you have anything else to add, please jump right in.
No, and those you hit those are the issues that we're contending with right now, and more to follow on the COVID.
Right.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Pete. Select person Corona, back to you.
So I'm gonna go back to more to follow on the COVID. So as far as, because if you read in the paper, there's, in the Telegram, you know, there's 10,000 new cases and all that. How many, and it's maybe a Jim Filbert question, but he's not here. So how many new cases in the last week do we know in Charlton?
I don't have it for this week. Last week, there were 30 new cases with 100
30.
still
Yeah, there were
active,
30.
so it was 130 total in the town. Right.
And how many total?
130 total that were being monitored that were still technically COVID positive at that time. So that
And-
would have been 8 days ago when the report came.
But the hospitalization rate, or?
Oh, it's pretty low, very, very low. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't recall.
that's a tough
if
question.
there's- I don't recall if there was anybody actually in the hospital, and maybe Andrew would recall, but I don't. It hasn't been brought up, so not an area of concern.
And my question is more leaning towards, I'm gonna go back to the superintendent, more leaning towards October 1st. Do the kids continue to wear masks in school, or are we at a position where we're comfortable?
Well,
If,
I'll be honest, if I can jump in,
no, please do it. This is an open.
This
it's an
is,
open
with the discussions that we've had, I don't want to speak for the entire board, but the general feeling that I'm getting is that the board will probably follow state guidelines. We can't be any less lenient than the state dictates. We can be more restrictive or stringent in the rules, but for now, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me like we are monitoring the state guidelines and going along with them and working with the schools. So,
And we're doing the same right now, it's regulatory, so That's why I mentioned the Board of Education meeting today, because we thought it would come up today. It did not come up today. We're getting close to October 1st. We're hanging on as well. We're waiting for some direction there, but as long as it's regulatory at this point in time, it's our responsibility to implement the regulations.
And how the schools communicating with the Board of Health in both towns?
We've always had open lines of communication.
That's right.
But over the last 18, 19 months, we've gotten to know each other really well.
Yeah, and I'd like to check, just, till August 1st, our hands are sort of tied, but, I think there's more value in situational awareness for the students in education, keeping them aware that, in an environment like this where we're socially distanced enough, if we're totally risk averse, we wouldn't be in school at all. So there is some degree of risk, and we have to decide as a community what's the acceptable risk right now. And I think if we do have some restrictive measures, we have to have triggers and thresholds to not only initiate those measures but also to roll those measures back to. I think we get a false sense of security with putting a mask on, but there's also other risks with those masks too. What's the frequency of those masks being changed? Those masks are breeding ground for bacteria and other harmful viruses as well too. So it's not just put a mask on everybody and everything gets better. If that was the case, it would have been 18 months ago we would have been done with this. I think we have to have ongoing discussions, educations, reminders with the children, not put the teachers in that authoritarian mode to be constantly get your mask up, but through education have the students be aware, all right, this is a situation where I probably should put a mask on, or this is a situation where it's okay not to have a mask on.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Board of Health?
A question about the water contamination. So I was understanding it correctly, you're saying it's going to be another couple of years before you guys determine where that.
We don't know, it's just, I've seen how long it takes
Is that-
sometimes
okay.
for, look, I don't, look at this loop project, with, trying to remember what year the contamination was identified, probably over 20 years ago.
Oh, I bet.
Sure.
So-
And if in a perfect world, in a fictitious world now, if we had public water, would that alleviate or address all those current issues, or would the other mitigations?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
They would need to be,
Sure. But
there wouldn't be any
try
other.
finding a large amount of water in town that doesn't have iron or arsenic in it, that's the problem.
Sure, well, that was my question, so even would there still be mitigation that would need to be done, even if that was? the
Sure,
case?
yeah, and that's why we're getting the water out of Southbridge so far,
For now.
for now.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for the website for the COVID vaccine, which was great. And I wonder if you're going to be notifying the people 65 and over of an additional shot.
Good question. That I do not know. That's one reason why I was looking forward to seeing Jim here tonight.
You will definitely have that as a takeaway and get answers.
Yeah, right. Yep, and you can always call the Board of Health. One of the fine young ladies there would either have the answer or get the answer to you. So if it's not on the website.
We'll follow up with you.
And that's also one nice thing about Massachusetts. They have the MIAS system where all the vaccines are tracked at the state level. So, whoever has MIAS access at the Board of Health can go out and do the search and see when your last vaccination was. So we can do a reverse look at those.
They can identify every person?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Anybody from the Board of Health? Wow.
No, anybody that has that access. So I'm not.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I
Jim
know.
has
No.
probably, Jim will have the
Maybe-
access.
It's like super top secret there.
Yeah.
And Steve, just to further elaborate, on your question about the bed capacity in central Massachusetts, it's really a combination of a number of issues. As everybody, they're struggling. The hospitals are struggling for labor help. UMass right now currently has 600 out on FMLA and another 400 open positions. So that's compounding their bed situation, along with the labor action at St. Vincent's. So along with the uptick in the hospitalization. So all those culminating factors are, raising the level in central Massachusetts to concern for hospital beds.
So when we read something like 80% of the ICU beds are full, that's available beds because of the labor action probably as well?
That is definitely contributing
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the central mass bed shortage, yes.
Wow.
Any other questions for our friends? John, Pete, thank you guys. And again, you guys have had a rough year, meaning you've done a tremendous amount. So
They've done a great job.
the town
Not
owes
as
you
bad
one.
as Jim.
No, we actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
absolutely do.
yeah. I think we all owe Jim, like, I'd say a beer, but I'll probably get in trouble for saying it.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Kristen, do you have anything from your side of the house, or are you just here observing tonight?
I'm here observing pretty much, but I wanted to ask a quick question of the Board of Health.
Please.
Jim and Pete, thanks. Did you say that the water contamination on Cemetery and Gold Road is not MTBE? It's a different thing?
It's not related to ExxonMobil. So the scientists, whoever it was that studied these, put these through some very rigorous testing. There's actually only, 2 sites in the whole country that do it. I think it was University of Oklahoma or something. So they did this multispectral scanning, whatever, isotope analysis of the samples that were taken out of the well samples at in Gould Cemetery Road. And it took a long time, long time.
Yeah, we actually had to get people to interpret the interpretation of the report.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
basically, it's different isotopes from the two that have different markers.
Yeah, there's a report if you really want to have.
Oh, it was just, so Northside Road was contaminated by Exxon. And if you're walking down Northside Road and you cross Stafford, boom, you're on Cemetery.
Yeah.
That's why I was kind of like, wow,
Yeah.
it's right. I could see how people would jump to the conclusion.
Yeah,
It's
Kristen,
literally
exactly, 'cause that was my
same
first thought.
neighborhood,
Asking you,
yeah.
and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
no.
So I was like, it's completely different petroleum
Exactly.
based product or something.
And the report is extremely long. I mean, I breezed through it and I was getting.
Okay, so it's different,
My
not
eyes were
MTB, something
glassing
else.
over.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
all I was
yeah, yeah.
curious.
It is a.
Oh, it is
But
MTB.
It's just.
Oh, thank you.
It's a
All right.
different isotope marker. So
Okay.
the mobile had one marker, and this is a different marker that they did
Ah.
chemically. They chemically ruled it out that it came from the mobile. So.
Okay, so it came from somewhere else. Okay.
How many houses were affected on that? So do you know?
Thanks, Bob.
I'm trying to remember. I'm.
5 or 6.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Yeah.
So I have a question on that. So hypothetically speaking, because of the market, everything that's happening out there in the real estate and the like, so if somebody's selling one of those houses, is that disclosed anywhere out
has
there
to be.
that there's a
Yes.
contamination?
Oh, yeah.
And yes?
Yes.
Which is a huge problem. And more than likely, and it's probably coming from private property somewhere. And the problem is, to get on someone's property to test for it and do everything else like that, it's going to turn into a nightmare. So it tells about from before. It's going to be a while until we actually figure out where this is.
Right.
So-
They don't know. There's a couple of strong indications.
Yeah, there's some guesses.
Oh, there are some.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And that was.
But again, it's trying to get onto the property and then trying to, reverse engineer, so to speak, how did it get there? And then you've got to bring in hydrogeologists and these experts about, what the petrochemicals are and indeed came from where you think it did.
And I think I got like a 12 on my chemistry final in high school, so I'm not going to help.
What's chemistry?
Right, and the good
I
thing
tried
at
to
this
read
point
the report,
is
yeah.
DEP is keeping it open. They're not.
Oh, yeah,
They're
right.
not
Mhm.
totally resolving, the mobile aspect. So it's
Yep.
still an open and ongoing.
Yeah, we
investigation.
keep after the DEP so they don't
Sure.
just forget about it and put it in the back of the file cabinet.
Which we appreciate.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, you're welcome.
Raj, how about something from you? You always have something nice to say at Board of Selectmen's meeting. What's going on?
I think you guys are doing a wonderful job.
You're the one.
I think that the Board of Selectmen, I've been in town a little while, all right? And I think the Board of Selectmen that we have currently is probably one of the finest board I can recall many, many years.
You make me blush. Thank you.
And I'll make a comment, I did not tip Roger ahead of time for that.
In fact, if Steve were
Not that I may tip him later, but I did not tip him before.
If I could be frank.
Thank you.
I really believe part of the thing, to me, with the board is, and I'm gonna give Bill kudos on this, is the openness of the board to discuss things. Steve, I mean, the whole thing about hours and putting it on Facebook and just the openness of the board, they're willing to share information and to keep us not in the dark. Personally, I think it's great.
Well, you kind of right. I mean, I think that's the goal of all 5 of us.
It does.
That you may not agree with what we decide,
Don't have to.
or majority decides, but we always want to know. We always want the town and other, really everyone to know what's going on and why. And then you can judge us at the ballot box, really, that's what it comes down to. But
And you want the sense that the board is listening. Sometimes you get the sense the board is trying to do the right thing, but they're not listening to the voters.
well, thanks, Roger. I'm always very kind, as always.
Roger, thank you. With that said, we have a town meeting coming. So
Yeah.
we would like to see everybody
Well-
participating.
We're usually there.
Yes.
Sometimes my mouth's going too.
We will do anything we possibly can to have people at that meeting.
Should be talking
And,
to Moderator Smith about that in a little while, so it'd be nice. So Dan, Chief Dow, good luck following that.
Yeah. Well, I feel just the opposite of Roger.
The police force is wonderful too, by the way.
Dan, how long are you gonna leave, huh?
Just a couple things. We're dealing with police reform right now, and that's going to obviously lead to some changes in policies and procedures. And right now, there's a lot of unknowns, so we don't want to certainly put things in place only to have to change them. So it's kind of a sit back and wait and see what the state mandates and stuff. And I've been working with Andrew on some of those matters as we go through contract negotiations. Short term, COVID is kicking our butts. It seems like no sooner do I get somebody back, I have somebody go out. It's like a revolving door, so it's difficult. Small police department, you always got somebody coming, leaving. My people are no different. They have kids and other members of their family that are impacted. So short term, long term, not a great time to be a police officer. So as our staff ages out, we try to look for replacements, just like anybody else that's looking for help right now probably sees it's almost impossible to find people. There's just so many jobs out there. I equate right now recruitment to like trying to recruit during the Vietnam War for the military. It's just not a popular time to be looking for a job in, the police departments. Selfishly, I'm pushing a radio project for the town that you guys are probably tired of listening to, but that's something I'm working with Andrew. It's just that ours is antiquated. We're 20 years behind. It's something we're trying to catch up. Nobody's fault, but it just happened. But as we strategically plan things we're going to need in place, you have to have a communications. You've got to be able to talk to fire. There's parts of the town we can't communicate. If there ever was a disaster, it's certainly needed. Building wise, I'm pushing for the roof and on my HVAC system. It's a building. First came into play in 1992. People were working there, so the building looks good from the exterior, but when you look at the age of it, some of the equipment is starting to show its age. I throw that out there. I know the town's got other needs, and you guys as a board are going to have to prioritize what's important and what needs to be fixed immediately and what can wait, but I just throw out my needs. Future goals, I'd like another officer for traffic and a full-time dispatcher. That's all I got.
And actually, that was gonna be one of my questions, and like the board member else too. But generally, anyone who's been watching our budget discussions over the past couple of years, I've kind of taken a hard line of, I don't want to increase operating expenses for additional headcount unless there's a really good reason. One of those good reasons is public safety. So I know you're asking for one traffic officer and one dispatcher. Realistically, that's probably what you need. What do you want?
Oh, I'd like to empower them. Reality. I mean, I would take 3 or 4, but at some point in time, I got to be a realist and say, I need lockers, I need space to put them. I mean, I need to make a schedule. That would, anything can be done with money. I just don't know what the town has to give me. I tell you, ideally, we would be better situated with one additional officer and another full-time dispatcher.
Yeah.
If you told me you had money to give me 2 of those, I'd be doing cartwheels.
The reason I ask, and just, again, this is the type of conversation that I want us all to have, is that Amazon's more than likely coming in, pending town votes, let's put it that way. Unless something happens, they're gonna be here. There is another distribution center probably coming in. You probably saw or you may not have seen, but this could be information to some of you, that the prelim assessment on the LNG on 169 has come back positive, and that they recommended its placement on 169. Now, that's not gonna be a lot of headcount, but it's gonna be like a lot of cars. So when we think about our little Curry and Ives town of 13,000 people, during the day, that's gonna swell really quick. We're gonna have a lot of people coming in and out. We're gonna have a lot of traffic coming in and out, and I don't believe for 1 second that they're gonna stay on Route 20. I don't believe for 1 second they're gonna stay on 169. Anyone who uses Waze apps, or any of the other apps, they're gonna look at it, or just figure out all the back roads. Stafford Street's gonna turn into a nightmare. Carpenter Hill Road, same thing. There's all these side streets that are gonna do it, which we need to come up with, again, a larger infrastructure plan. But I'm too old now to be that idealistic that that many people coming in, we're not gonna need more safety officers, whether it's police, fire, even DPW, to actually maintain all these things. So when we think around operating budgets and when we think around other stuff, balancing with the schools, whatever, our little town's is gonna start growing up real quick. And we're gonna have to find a way to do it. And I'm looking at the police department to honestly, to have the first major investment, because we're gonna need it. If we wanna control what's gonna start happening in our town, we need to staff that department. But again, that's just my 2 cents. I'm curious what other people think around, again, I'm thinking about overall growth. And most of us moved here or continue to live here because it's Charlton. And I wanna keep that environment. And one of those parts of it, it's safety. I never worry about, for as much as we should all lock our doors if you see the Charlton Facebook police Facebook page. We live in a safe town, and I want to keep it that way. And one of the ways we have that is a solid police force. So obviously I'm playing my hand a bit when we start thinking about future budgets, that I'm going to be looking to say, yeah, if we have some extra money for operating, I'm putting it to the police. My 2 cents. Curious what other people in the audience think, members of my board. Pete.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at it proportionally, what's proportionally, the police budget out of our town budget now, what's going to be the increase with these warehouses to our tax base, and take that same proportion and apply it to the police.
No, I'm not laughing. That would be, he would have 20 new offices if
Right, well, that's what I'm
everything
saying,
were to
because,
come through.
you're looking at a
that
24/7
proportion.
operation, 365, so, you're not only gonna have to apply those officers to the day shift, it's also gonna be an increase on the
Yeah, of
night shift
course.
as well.
Of course.
So,
Of course.
those FTEs add up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Last night I was at the police. And there was
Only for
two-
good reason.
Right.
Everyone calm down. Calm down.
There was only 2 officers on, that's it. And when I was there, one got called and the other one had to rush to get out. So imagine that, 2. It's a big town. I know that we're talking 13,000, but just right now, it's bare bones. So definitely with all the new traffic, I agree that we're definitely gonna have to invest to keep Charlton, Charlton safe and.
Yeah, if I could add, I'm not a gambler, but out of these 3 projects that are proposed to come into town, one of them will. And that leaves Chief Dowd at a deficit from day one. So I think we ought to really, and the hiring issues you're having with people not, I think that needs to be addressed ahead of
I'd like to ask the chief how many officers you have now.
Right now, we got 20. But
Now, with the town's population, doesn't it call for about 25?
it does.
Yeah.
Well, the FBI's suggestions, it does.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So there you go.
20 includes part-time.
No, that's full-time.
Oh, it's
So
full-time.
when I say part-time, we only have 2 people that actually cover the road. The rest are doing details and things like that we can't. Another problem, believe it or not, if I told you that we can't fill details, you'd say, how's that possible? But we call town after town after town, and 40 people here say no. It's not, some say yes, but there's more details than offices at this point in time. I'm nervous about the Route 20 project coming up. It doesn't seem like there's gonna be an end in sight for that.
Has there been a definitive date on that, when that starts? Was it January? I saw the last.
It keeps
meeting.
getting pushed off, Steve, to be honest with you. I've gone to meetings before, and I was thinking that it was gonna be underway. And there's some things
I
that,
saw the last CMRPC meeting, I thought it was January 2022.
This is the one, by the way, just so everyone knows, we're talking about the one down by Richardson Corner, going out to Oxford.
All the way to J. Anthony's, yeah, pretty much, yeah. That's the 5-mile, 3-mile stretch of 2 new bridges, 1 lane, Route 20. Might cause a few
might be able to just-
issues along.
And again, I don't see any members of the fire department here this episode. So we haven't forgotten about you all either, in that we do have to talk buildings again at some point. You won't hear me utter the word debt exclusion without finding a way to pay for it, without raising taxes, but just because it got voted down doesn't mean the problems go away. We just need to find a different solution to it, so that's another thing that we need to talk about. Other questions for Chief Dowd? Oh, or Josh?
In terms of the communication system deficit, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, didn't, not last town meeting, but the town meeting before, didn't we approve some,
The first
So-
half of it. The
Okay.
first,
Well,
the first.
right, so there was a first portion of it, and at that time, the public safety building was still on the table. And a big part of that also was is upgrade to the dispatch consoles. So we weren't sure based off of whether or not the public safety building complex moved forward, whether or not that money was gonna have to go into dispatch consoles, because right now they're on an XP-based system, or Microsoft XP. Since it didn't pass, that became the first priority, so that's taken up a big chunk of that appropriation. But I think we're looking at, now with the American Rescue Plan money coming down the line, that being a very high target for that, to dedicate a lot of that money that's coming into the town toward that.
so nothing's been implemented?
It's been ordered, it hasn't been put in.
Do you think that's gonna address a significant,
The
part of that
frustration
problem?
is that the town has put money towards this and we're no better off.
That's what I've been working with Andrew, saying, hey, we need to finish this, or at least we should have seen proportional improvement each time money was given towards a project. Now, I know it's a big nut, and maybe you don't get all the money at once, but as we needed to come up with a plan. I've been talking with Ed Knopf, the fire chief, about, how do we improve if it's a third let's improve a third this year, let's improve a third next year, but over time, we've had no improvement since that money was, but now things were just, our equipment's more antiquated than it was when we started looking at this project. So I credit Andrew for getting the project back on track, and I appreciate those efforts.
And would-
I think, Josh, last year, if memory serves me right, we appropriated at the fall town meeting out of free cash, $350,000 or $400,000 for the first.
250,000.
250. What was it?
250.
250, knowing that there was going to be another $300,000 push out. So, yeah.
And in terms of the issues that you guys have now, can you give some examples to people of what kind of problems that causes and what you guys do?
Well,
If anything can be done in those situations?
Our communication system works on XP right now.
It's not, Jeff could probably speak more eloquently about how, you shouldn't be looking for parts on Craigslist if the communication center goes down. We need to be, we need to be at a platform where we can build off of, not where we need to start all over again.
And that's where we're at now, you think?
Well, without a doubt, that's project's underway, but that's why that project's underway.
And how do you guys, what do you guys do, if anything, to address that? It's obvious it's gotta be a huge problem. You guys can't talk to anybody on,
Well, it's more like losing sleep. It's working, but you gotta get ahead of this before, because at some point in time, we're not gonna be able to get parts when it does break, right, or it's, inoperable. But Jeff could probably speak more eloquently about the IT side of it.
I'm going, it's my turn.
Thanks, Joe.
Does you want me to go now? I'll go now.
No, I'd love to hear. Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
I'm Jeff Sorrell, I'm the IT director for the town of Charlton. Obviously, we're talking about COVID. One of my problems I'm having is sourcing product. There's a supply chain mess, there's a chip shortage, there's a labor shortage, and everything's on back order. And if I can get it, it's 30 to 50% more than it was 8 months ago. So that's kind of tough, and you have to work around a budget. I wanted this, but I can deal with that because the price has gone up. And part of the scary thing as well is licensing. It's not even a physical piece of hardware. Licensing has gone up as well, so.
Which makes no sense.
So, Microsoft Office, everybody has Office, it's an Office suite. It goes up $10 this year for 180 licenses that we have. So there's a cost I wasn't expecting. But as far as, business going on, it has to. And part of what I'm doing for the last 6-7 months and going on for the next 6-7 months, because the public building didn't pass, the fire station didn't pass, I haven't really touched anything in the police department. A lot of what they have is original to that building, and without getting into details, it's a security and safety hazard. And it's gotta go. You can't Band-Aid this anymore. And we're working on it. We have access controls, systems to automate instead of doing it manually. So that's what we're looking for in the future in IT.
Thanks, Jeff.
And a question for Andrew, and thank you for that. Is any of this covered under the federal grant money that would, infrastructure, I would think it.
Yeah, it kind of, that falls a lot under the broadband trench And, you know, really, we're looking at the most appropriate way to appropriate that and then bring it back before the finance committee for approval and then to the board for their final go before we start truly, you know, hashing some of this money out for, you know, for projects. But we want to make sure that it's a defined plan before just starting to open up the checkbook.
But if that money is available, it's only for 3 years or something like that, I think I saw that. Let's sting while it's hot, while that money's there, right?
Any other questions for Dan or Jeff? Thank you both, I appreciate it. Jeff, especially you, I know you're kind of the like unsung hero in town hall, because you're always stuck in the basement.
I like it. Nobody sees me ever in the basement.
Actually, I think that's probably the greatest compliment that people don't have to do, meaning that everything's just running, so
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it.
When I don't hear from anybody, it's great. When everybody calls,
Yeah,
it's a
exactly,
problem.
that's what Elaine,
We're stuck in the basement.
I was just saying, this was a nice segue, because I guarantee I know what's coming. So, how are friends at the senior center doing?
So, a couple of things. You can see our board, 2020, we're all masks and, you know, trying to continue to do, it was very challenging. Nobody was in here, but staff and a couple of volunteers. They did the to-go lunches. I mean, they rocked it on the to-go lunches. You know, we had doubled our number of people that would come for lunch. So that was a great program. However, when we started coming back in, which was July, we lost a lot of people. They didn't want to come in. Some people can't come in, or they don't feel comfortable coming in, or whatever, you know, the case may be. So we are starting to add a to-go lunch on a Thursday. We're offering it trial basis to see how that goes, so that maybe even if they want to come in and sit and have a lunch, they can also take one home for the next day. Or people can stop and get one to pick up. So we're going to try that through the month of October and see how that works. We've been trying to do things in this same space, and we kind of even lost space when we got the elevator. It took away some space. We had space over here, but now there's a stairway, which wasn't here. So we keep getting a little, the IT, we love you, Jeff, but the IT room, that was kind of our room too, and the sewing group got kicked out of there, so we're all in the sewing group.
Man, you went straight to hell.
We got the sewing group, the computers, which we have a class in there, the pool table, and storage. If you look in that pool room, you'll know what I mean. The back room, we have the yoga class. Linda knows it's really tight in there. We have to limit it to Charlton residents only, Charlton seniors only. And we're thinking about, as we went through COVID, we were thinking about doing hybrid things, maybe a Zoom, have the class with a Zoom, but Linda, we talked about it a little bit. And it's kind of tough to do that with her particular class, but maybe presentations we could do. One of the challenges with that would be the seniors that are at home would have to have access, internet, and be able to get on Zoom. So that has been a really big challenge to us, even if we did offer, because Linda had offered Zoom the whole entire time with her class. So it's really been tough. And during the COVID, even my kitchen staff was doing outreach. So the other side of being here and doing things here is the outreach portion where the outreach person goes to the homes in Charlton. And we really couldn't do that for quite a while, but we did a lot of phone calls, tons of phone calls. But now as she's going back out again, and I go back out again as well, she's dealing with homeless people. She's trying to get them places to live. She's dealing with scams. I cannot even tell you how many scams are out there that are going on, that these seniors keep, and they keep doing it. They keep falling for it, and they get so realistic, the scams, There's just so many things out there that people need. food stamps and, SNAP and fuel assistance and just so many issues, personal things that, you might spend an hour just sitting there listening to the person trying to tell you what is going on in their life. They're so lonely now, they can't get out of the house or what have you, So you spend a half hour on the phone. So there's just a whole ton of things, and I do feel like I need, when you come in to this building, there's no receptionist. So you're coming in to just a room and hoping someone's in there to greet. I had some greeters that were working through the tax work-off program, which is a great program, but I don't have them. I don't have as many volunteers as I used to have, so a lot of things have changed, and I do feel like I need help, like maybe a recreation person or a activities person to do the activities, because I'm doing the activity. I'm coming down playing cornhole and things like this. I really have to look at bigger things, at the bigger picture, and let someone else do these things. But we've lost many, many people and lots of volunteers. So, but we're doing the best we can with what we have, and we always have, and we always will. I mean, my heart is with the seniors and whatever we can do for them. So.
Let's have a talk about the elephant in the room. That I think, actually I shouldn't say this, I think there's probably general consensus, if not universal, that we want to get you a new building, or a new space at least. The problem we're facing is that now the public safety building got shot down. Any alternative plan we had around potentially moving you into the police station, that obviously got blown up. And it's going to be hard to justify, and you just heard briefly now some of the other issues that we're going to have between water, infrastructure, capital needs from schools, and everything else like that. It's going to be hard to ask the taxpayers to say, hey, we want you to go build another building, or buy another building, or rehab another building. So if we can come up with a compromise somewhere, I'm all ears, but I got to tell you, I don't have one. I don't have one on this one. Normally I'm like, hey, why don't we try this? I can't think of a space we have that we could repurpose for you right now that's better than what you have. If you have an idea, I will absolutely listen, and I'd assume the rest of the board will as well. We can try to figure something out. Just, I don't have one.
I don't know.
Did I just throw you under the bus?
Maybe a little bit.
No.
I have had some conversations with the Overlook about available space that they have over there and creating some sort of partnership with them with renovating space to potentially move the senior center and over onto Overlook property. But we need to do a feasibility study first to see if the space even fits what we're looking to do.
I like the fact that you guys are thinking in a very innovative way, though.
No, that's
because that honestly that didn't cross my mind. I was just thinking, oh,
We
yeah.
talked about Dresser Hill previously
Yeah.
in the past, but you have to put an actual building up
Right, exactly.
behind it.
Yep.
You can't use what's there, it's a house,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so.
But in the interim, since we have two superintendents here, I still think we have.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, we
superintendent.
do. For the interim though, and thinking out of the box, you said you're shorthanded with help. What can the superintendents do to bring some juniors, sophomores, juniors, or seniors in?
Well, at this time, honestly, we have had some intergenerational things, but because of COVID, I really don't want to bring them in at this point in
Yeah.
time to mix.
If they're vaxxed or if they're masked or if it still doesn't.
I don't know,
If
it would
it's
be
out of the
tough,
box,
because a
then
lot
you
of
know.
people won't come back because they know we're not wearing masks, so they don't know if people have been vaccinated, so to bring younger students and things in here at this point, I don't know if that's a good idea. I mean, we love the intergenerational stuff, but
And I think the seniors like
they do.
enjoy
But
the kids, right?
right
I know,
now,
no, I
don't know if it's a
understand
good
it. I understand.
idea to do that at this point.
Dasha?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I went to the Masonic Home myself, and I had a conversation or two with the people out there as well. I was looking for the venue for different reasons, but the conversation got going, and we got to the senior topic per se. And they are actually very excited to, now I think they closed again, maybe because of the numbers, something is happening out there, but they were very anxious to bring us as a board or people from the board over to the Masonic Home to have some kind of a fair going on, because those people, they do want to be a part of this town, they are part of this town, and they want to get involved in different boards and different communities, committees, for that matter. I was just saying that because maybe those are the people that can help you. Maybe those are the people that can come down the hill and be the volunteers for you. They're similar ages, you know, they have, the facilities are unbelievable, the swimming pool and everything in between, you know, and they are anxious. They want to get out of there and be here in the town. So maybe if you can, you know, pick up on that and have some
Yes.
conversations with Masonic Home, with
We
Overlook.
have partnered with them just recently for trips, so we are doing senior trips with the Overlook. And yeah, I'd like to reach out,
And
as
they
far
were-
as that, maybe
they
they
were
can
very
come down
excited about
and
that.
do some activities or together.
You know, the other thing about the second vaccinations for the boosters, does Mary have an access to it in the office? Not our Mary, your Mary, in the office. Would she have an access to see what seniors are getting
Well,
ready for
what I
the
was told by
second?
Jim, and this was about a week ago maybe, or before, right when the booster came out, was that at this time, there's certain criteria for people to have the booster, so they can get it right now. It's the younger people, we don't have a date yet when the younger people
But
can get it.
for the 65 and over.
Right, they can get it now if they have certain criteria they have to have.
Right, but how do they know that it's time now? So is that a way for them to come here and ask to put it on a town website or somewhere, so they can come here, talk to Mary, Mary can go on a computer and kind of run that data and tell them, okay, you know, you want until a month or two?
Well, what I was told from the Board of Health was that people have to do it on their own, call their doctor, or go to the clinics that are available, Walgreens and CVS, to get the booster. They're not
Yeah,
gonna be
but
setting
know
them
about
up for it.
Okay.
And honestly, the guidance keeps changing. It's not set in stone, and we're paving new ground right now. So, you know, it's 6 months, and it's 8 months, and it's 10 months. So, I mean, what's true today might be different tomorrow, you know, just because of the time we're in right now.
Yeah, so just communication.
Yeah, I mean, like, we obviously support everything you're doing, and we obviously empathize with the conditions that you sometimes have to deal with. And if there's something we can do, we will. It's just, I don't want to give false hope to anybody, yeah, but at the same time, I want to at least say, if we can come up with something, I'm all ears. Let's put it that way. Any other questions for them? Are good?
I actually have a question.
Yeah, Roger.
How many seniors do you service?
Depends on what we're having. So we have several different groups that come in. We have all different classes and things like that. So some might come to all of them, some might come to just a few, or just go to one class, or come for lunch, or so. It's a variety of things and numbers.
Thanks, Roger. All right, thanks, everybody. Again, we'll see if we can circle around. Gene and John, are you guys here, like, for like PB, or just kind of hang around? Or? Either way is fine. I just
Go ahead.
I just want to be respectful.
Well, questions, how about that? Anybody here have questions about what the planning board's doing?
Yeah, what's going on with the, even though I see the agenda?
I know you have questions.
No, nothing bad.
That's why it's a layup.
It's awful. So on the zoning changes, or the zoning review, which I think is the utmost importance, and I really appreciate all the work that your team is doing on that. How's that going?
Good, good. So we, I think we're in the home stretch right now. We had a meeting, we came up with some new definitions for our, different facets and updating definitions in our zoning bylaws. And we're gonna work them into our into our use tables. And hopefully by the town meeting, we'll be able to vote, the town will be able to vote on, or it could be a long town meeting.
November or May?
Yeah.
No.
We have to make sure,
Yeah.
the fall, the first meeting.
Nice.
It was delayed because of COVID. And we had
No, still though, I expected May, so that's great.
Yeah, we're aiming to do it last fall at this time, but.
Without tipping your hand, is it a pretty significant revamp? Because I know there's the,
I think it's a clarification and bringing terms up to date.
Oh, right. What about the entire, and again, this is just a conversation with ourselves, like, the entire 80+% of the town is, zoned agricultural, residential, or whatever you want to call it. Is that still kind of staying the same?
It
under the
is,
proposal, or?
it is, and I think we're gonna, it's not gonna be, it's gonna be residential, 16 on agriculture, or
Oh, really?
and there's a host of definitions that we probably publish, hopefully we'll publish before the town meeting so people can get their head around it, so it's not a lengthy process. But we've been working with it for the better part of a year and a half now.
Yeah. If you've never taken part in one of these, it's a pretty significant piece.
Well, we've gone long, so once you define something in your bylaw, then you have to go to the use table and go through, is it a special permit, is it a right permit, is it, who gets, is it allowed in that area or not? So it's a line by line, hand-to-hand combat, trying to make sure that you don't have any overlapping or
Make
double.
sure each section agrees with
Yeah,
the
oh,
other
yeah,
section.
Yeah, because that's always fun when they don't. But
Right.
It's good.
Or there's a
And
little
we've got-
question.
Yeah. And our guy from CMRP has, he's sampled some of the regional towns and cities and come up with some nice, some tight, hopefully tight definitions of what is allowed and what's not, to hopefully keep the conflict down and allow business to come in and say, hey, this is gonna be allowed here, and hopefully invite more businesses into, it's like, oh, it's a possibility here, and start the discussion with the town, with the EDC members. I know you guys were looking at that too, so try to work together with that, so. It's good. Hopefully we'll have it by the end of, I think we have one more meeting, Gene.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've got to get it on and get it done, so it's able to be voted on.
That's really impressive.
Oh, yeah, I've watched a few of their meetings. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It goes through a lot of discussion.
And a lot of stuff is weeded out because it's not relevant anymore, some of the terminology and stuff. So, but no.
Very good.
Always does.
What, is there any updates on the master plan? Is that in the near future, started, what's?
Well, I think this was the basis, as you know, it's just to get all these definitions and everything handled, so we're able to, everybody agrees on it. So then the next step would be the master plan in order to, what the rules are for the town, so we're able to move forward. And that, it's been a while, and every year we have people coming and wanting to have a project, they want to redistrict it or change the bylaw so it fits in. And we want to get this to the town, so it's voted on, so that's what it is, and people know what's going to be allowed in these areas. So we can move forward with a master plan and have some type of, straight line in development, which is, I think, what we're all looking for, and to invite development and plan development.
And the EDC from that point would be able to pick things up and take the ball.
That's right, you can send them to the right ways.
What they're looking at.
We're looking at this type of development in this area, and to encourage this, and it matches with what we think in the future there. So it's very important, because Patsy, when was the last time the master plan was
Probably
addressed?
12 years now, is it 12 years
At
old?
least.
I think it's 2003 or
Oh, is it really?
2008.
Oh, yeah.
Was the master plan,
Oh,
and
so it's 17 years.
it's been a long time, and I don't even know where that master plan went, because it used to be on the website, but now you can't find it since the website got redone.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, with the planning board, how closely do you refer to that original master plan as you are moving forward, or are you just so busy trying to deal with what comes down the
I
pipe?
think what we've decided is that and with what has been happening in the last few years with the development coming to the town, we're gonna get our zoning diagnostic done and move forward with a new plan.
So you're not are you going to look at the goals of the old master plan and see how did we do over the past 15
I'm
to
sure.
20 years, or are you just gonna make a new one?
I think we will refer back to that as we move forward, but we have in mind that we're creating with our new zoning and what we have for definitions and such to eye that in the future. And of course, to look back and see what our new stuff works in the past. I wasn't part of the master plan that came forward before, so I'm
Yeah,
sure
I understand that.
there'll be snippets of that included with the new one.
I do know that in the old master plan, the one of the primary goals was to limit residential building and focus on economic development. And I'm curious to know, if we look at the percentages of land use now,
Yep.
have we increased the percentage of residential? We've had a lot of houses come up. So have we, in fact, even followed that guideline, or are we even further? We have also had a lot of businesses come
Yep.
up, so it may be that we're still, relatively speaking, at a similar percentage-wise or ratio of residential to business.
But it's curious only because a lot of these developments have been in the works for 15 years, and they renew their subdivision plan, renew their subdivision plan. So a lot of stuff we are voting on, and Gene can attest to, is like plans that have been approved maybe 10 years ago, and they're
Right.
just coming to light at this point, so.
I've just seen a lot of older farmers
Yeah.
die off and their lands be chopped up into
Yeah.
houses.
Yeah.
So that's,
I mean, it's,
But if they can't afford,
if they can't afford their
The
taxes,
land.
that's their right to, if that's by use on that,
by use on that.
land,
Yeah.
they're able to do that.
you sort of have to go with what's out there and what's
Yes.
coming into town. We try to drag in what we want, but we always don't get what we want, and we have to work with what comes to us. So we have the ideal picture here, and then we have the realistic world over here, and we try to get them close together.
Gene, were you on the original master plan? I can't,
For a couple of meetings, and then I
because the
didn't.
big talk was the village district.
Yes.
That was like the number one huge,
Right.
then it was 20 developments, but it was the village district that now kind of fizzled out a little bit.
Right.
But it was, and then Route 20 development. I mean, I don't think,
There was a large piece about protecting natural land and creating linkages to, pathways for
Pathways, yes.
wildlife, and I don't know how much that's been paid attention to.
I think that when I mean, being on the planning board and watching the planning board, that they do really pay attention to that. They don't really, I don't think they give too many free passes on that. With changes, they're pretty strict about having open space and development.
Yeah, I don't know, the conservation is here tonight, or the Charlton Heritage Preservation Trust, because they tend to be the recipients of a lot of these developments when they come in, and it's by law, they have to have set aside. So it's the piece of swampland that you can't build on. That's what gets sent to the land trust.
But that also gets looked at, though.
It does, we do have an engineer that looks at that, and he goes over our bylaws and what's regulated in the town, and he brings that up when he assesses a subdivision plan. So we had one that came forward maybe at the beginning of May, and there was land set out, called out for the Charlton Trust, and we had a question is how would this land be accessed by the public, and you need to go back and make sure that I think it went underneath the railroad track. It's like, well, how could the people go underneath the railroad track to access the public land on the other side? So we bring that up.
Oh, that's good.
And it's a major stumbling block for a lot of course, the developer is not trying to, he wants to maximize his profit on the amount of houses he can put on the land, but he has to follow the rules that are set forth, so, and those rules are pretty clear to them. So, but they can try to do it. There's no harm in asking,
I know that the land trust has a lot
You
of
don't get it if
land
you
that's
don't
like,
want, but,
they
yeah.
can't do anything with.
Yeah.
They can't
yeah.
do anything
So-
with that.
So
land.
it is
Yeah.
a topic of discussion when all these divisions, subdivisions, or larger plans, larger sites come to the board, so very cognizant of that.
If I were to guess on the development that the town is looking at now and coming in, and it's certainly on the Route 20 corridor, what we didn't have in 2003 was water and sewage running all the way to Sturbridge, right? That was the main drawback from many companies that the EDC back then, and those 20 years ago, was looking at, 18 years ago. So now it's a different ballgame. I think from the meetings, the planning board meetings I've watched, they're taking that into consideration. Nobody wants to change the fabric of Charlton, but And the other part of that is very few people that I talk to want to make it all single-family homes, so the tax rate goes up, right? So there's a trade-off. I think they're doing a really good job, and it's a really good group.
Well, that's the master plan. I mean,
Yeah,
once
yeah,
we move
it
forward
is.
with that, and
Yep.
hopefully we have, I would like to say that, as a shout out to the planning board, that we have public meetings open to the public. Please come express your opinions, because we've had 4 meetings now on a large development in this town, and we've had probably 4 to 5 people in the public. That'd be a groundswell right there of interest. So it's, if you have any questions, we're there. Randy's there all the time. He's able to answer any questions on that. There's material on the planning board's website about what these plans are and the plans to what the development will look like. And I think there's presentations from the developers on that. So you could come and take a look at it, and any questions, come to the meetings, please.
I could give you a couple suggestions to bring a crowd in for one.
Don't even.
Kick off topic.
There's always that one guy in the crowd.
Thanks, John. Any other questions for John or Jean?
Does anybody have any questions about anything that's happening you want to know more
Yeah.
about?
Any chance? Well, like I said, they're a really open board, so if you want to go, just ask some questions.
Can I ask the selectman a question? Or
Always.
two? Okay. I haven't had much experience while I've been on planning board to talk about, or to get into, and the planning board doesn't get into it, is about the TIFs and the host agreements and everything. Is that under executive session type thing? Is it open? What can you tell us? We're very interested.
So, long story short, individual contract negotiations are usually held in executive session. I mean, it should be, no surprise to anybody that Amazon's going to be asking for some type of tax incentive to come into town. There was an agreement reached with NEC, the LNG provider. Again, as I mentioned, they received how should we describe it?
Preliminary.
Yeah, prelim approval from the siting staff today.
Yeah, we got one more bite of the apple on that.
Yeah, October 6th. Yeah, and the way.
Should be in ahead of time.
Yeah. So the way it works is that any type of tax agreement for the town, it has to go in front of town meeting. So anything that's negotiated by the Board of Selectmen basically says, okay, now town meeting, because it's dealing with taxes, you have to sign off on it. And the answer is no, well, it's dead. I mean, that's just a rule. There's no working around that. Now, I really can't get into specifics at this point yet, but, Andrew, you want to? Yeah. Anything that we can say without crossing the line.
Can you just explain what a TIF is?
Yeah.
So a general, tax increment finance, so essentially whatever the amount of improvements that they put onto the property, the town offers a percentage discount per year based off of the total value. So, if it's, say, if we offer a tip of, say, 50%, whatever the development costs into it, and that valuation in year one would be 50% and then diminished to whatever period of time, however that vehicle is structured. So,
Aren't they sometimes tied to a number of employees as well?
if the goal of the community is to drive local workforce, it can be. Otherwise, it doesn't necessarily have to.
It's basically, for those watching at home, it's a tax break for somebody. And I'm not going to call it anything else. Basically, a company says, yeah, I'm going to build in your town, but I'm not going to pay full tax. And if you don't want to negotiate one with me, that's okay, but I'm going to go the next town over and do the same exact thing, and you're going to get all the traffic and none of the benefits. So what the town has to balance is, all right, how much is it really worth to us, and how much are we really willing to have a discussion? That's why the Board of Selectmen, as the contract negotiation team, as part of the executive authority, negotiates it, but because it deals with the taxes, with the tax base, town meeting has to approve it. So really, that's what it is. I mean, in its very simplest form. But Andrew, keep going.
And that comes with a trade-off though too. So being on part of the negotiation team, it's so if you're, say if it's a 40% reduction in taxes, there's a limit on that.
By the way, we are making these numbers up, just everybody.
Yeah, no, making them up, making them up. It's a 10-year TIF. The TIF would last for 10 years. During that period, there's other line items in there that they would donate to the town for their community outreach type programs. So we're trying to come up with some of them.
That's all part of a negotiation. Would actually be a separate agreement as a community partnership agreement. Not, and that aspect of it can be or cannot be tied directly to the tax agreement, depending on the wording.
Correct. But the town could benefit other ways during that 10-year period. And the trade-off, I mean, if someone's gonna come into town and wanna spend $300 million, it's very typical that there's a TIF involved. It's probably 99% of the time, I would think.
So
Or
have
else,
we done it
like Bill
before?
said, they're gonna go somewhere else. What's that?
Have we done it before with, say, Millennium Power or any of the other? Have we
They had
done
a
that?
pilot agreement.
No, I asked that question, and that's actually gonna be interesting, because this may come up at town meeting. The last time the town had dealt with it was 15 years ago when that project fell through. So Millennium was before that, but Millennium was before I was even in town. But there was,
Yeah, the Millennium was a pilot, so a pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes, and being that they were a utility plant, then we did have an agreement with Millennium that they were paying a yearly fixed amount for 20 years. And TIFs can also be 20 years as well. They can be 5 years, they can be 10 years, it really is at the discretion. And it's in conjunction with the Board of Assessors for the valuation end and the exemption end, what they would vote on, and then, you know, we're talking about a couple different things here, really.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I'm glad you clarified.
as far as LNG goes, there may be a host community agreement that's been signed,
Yeah.
but then additionally, there might be a TIF that gets presented at a meeting at some point, and then there could be a community partnership agreement. With Amazon, it's gonna be more of a community partnership agreement, and a TIF, there might be two. So it is in conjunction. Andrew and I have been working quite a bit on it. But for Millennium, it was a pilot. It was a payment in lieu of taxes, and that's for an exemption. And when it's my turn, I'll speak more to that as far as LNG and what we've been working on.
Oh, now, when we think about host agreements, I do want to make a quick distinction, because there's often, the past couple of years, there's always been conversations around host agreements and having to do with marijuana establishments. The state of Massachusetts basically says that in order to open up a medicinal, or basically anything non-medical, in fact, actually even medical, I can't remember if you need a host community agreement. But it basically, the state says, have you signed this agreement with the town? And we're really not gonna look favorably upon you if you haven't. Any other host agreement is voluntary between businesses and the town. They don't need one. They can look at us and say, no, we're not gonna sign any of this. Often they do it to negotiate, to say, okay, you give me this, I'll give you that, et cetera, et cetera. So I really want to make that distinction, that they are required for now for medical establishments. Anything else that we ever talk around a host agreement, those are voluntary agreements, contractual agreements between the Board of Selectmen and in some entity in order to have a win-win on both sides. But no one needs to sign it. It's not needed for permitting or anything along those lines. So again, for those watching at home, I know we're talking around some technical details around finance, but it's an important thing to know, because often those lines get blurred and say, well, if you didn't sign that, they wouldn't have come. Well, no, that's not the case. Or if you did sign that, they would have come. It's like, well, no, that's not the case either. I mean, it's really industry specific, and marijuana is, I think, the only one.
That's mandated.
Yeah, that's actually mandated. Everything else?
Casinos.
Casinos, correct, yes.
And casinos, yeah.
And I don't hope to have a casino in town anytime soon. Gene, did that answer your question?
But I have 3 more. I mean.
Oh, yeah, come on, bring on. Yeah, Gene, bring on. Yeah, come on.
Okay, one quick one that's a yes or no thing. At the end, your TIF usually has a time period. At the end of that time period, what happens? Does it go back to they pay full taxes?
It goes to full
Or
value.
is that also negotiable?
No.
It always goes to full valuation unless a successor TIF is negotiated.
And when you say host agreement, now there's community host agreements, and you said usually it's only medical, medicinal, or casinos or whatever.
Well, those are mandated.
Mandated,
Correct.
right. Why would you, okay, utility,
Mhm.
why would you sign a host agreement?
I just want to be careful to answer this now.
Yes.
Because.
If you don't want to answer it, that's okay.
No, I do want to answer it, I just don't know if we can answer it now without it being posted. I will just say in generic terms, and please tell, my board can tell me to shut up and that I'm saying too much,
Keep on.
that the host agreement that was signed was advantageous to the town's taxpayers with the assumption that the entity was going to be coming to town no matter what. And it gave us more advantage than not having one. It basically gave us a greater say in certain things than if one didn't exist. Now, if you want to come to a Board of Selectmen's meeting, and I'll put this on the agenda, and we can have a much more detailed conversation about it,
That's
I would
probably
love
a better
to. So
idea.
Gene, I'm not trying to be evasive.
No, and I understand.
You know what I mean? Like, meetings like this are always rough because we want to have like real conversations, but I don't want to get into things too
Okay.
detailed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, and again, I welcome the board to either correct me and
Big enough.
or disagree to say that
We
we felt it was advantageous for the town's bargaining position.
Okay.
To add one more thing, I think somebody was asking, TIFs is relating to employees. We did have one other TIF that wasn't Millennium, which was a pilot, that did get approved, but then was canceled or nullified because they didn't meet their employee quota. So they were supposed to, hire a certain amount of employees from town. They did not do that, and so it was nullified and didn't make it to the end of its term. I can't remember the name of the company. I don't know if
That
you
was the
guys
one I
remember.
was thinking of. That was the one 15
Was
years
it
ago,
Terranet?
right, yeah.
Johnson Tool and Die,
Johnson told me.
H. Putnam Road.
Oh, look at John. Well done.
So it can be tied, but it doesn't have to be tied to employees. That's really up to the negotiating.
He looks like he's 25 years old. How does that even remember that? 10 riding your bike by?
All right, Gene,
So-
keep going. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Just real quick back to TIFs and
Yeah,
why
go.
that one failed. That was a 90% TIF based on 10 new employees over 10 years. So I think for everyone to just really get a good understanding, a TIF doesn't have to be a negative thing, at least in my mind. But as a town, we can negotiate what the percentage is based on the value that they're bringing to the town. For the developer, the TIF does a couple of things. One, it sets their taxes for the next 10 years. So when they go to borrow money and they have to add that into their pro forma, they know if they're gonna be profitable or not, and the lender knows that those values are fixed, and they're not gonna fluctuate over those 10 years. And then by the developer, also by getting a TIF, is allowed to go to the state for more funding mechanisms and other programs for them to participate in. So I think a TIF, again, in my view, if it's done correctly, can be a useful tool for the town, for the developer, and for the residents. And hopefully we can learn from past mistakes and make sure we do it correctly.
Yeah, and that's mostly true except for the valuation part. So the value can change over time, especially if they take out a permit. In the pilot, it couldn't. The pilot was a definitive fixed amount and a payment that they would be making, but as far as the TIF is concerned, it will still be my responsibility to do a full and fair cash value. It's the percentage that we're going to exempt within the TIF that will be applied to what that full and fair cash value is. This will be significant for a company like Amazon, who is going to have a lot of robots as it relates to personal property. So those robots, we don't know what their life expectancy is going to be, but without getting too detailed, maybe after 6 to 7 years, they need new robots. So if they were to purchase them, then that valuation can still go back up to 100. It's not going to be continued to be depreciated down because we're locked into a value, and that's beneficial to the town.
Gene, no questions.
But even the TIF agreement would still be on town ballot.
Yes, or town meeting.
Town meeting,
Absolutely.
and more than likely this November, so it's still, we'll have some explaining to do and why we came up with that and the whole bit at town meeting. But it's a good early start to kind of rejuvenate people to think about what a TIF is and why it's important.
All right, I'm gonna go Gene, John, Pete.
No,
John?
Just a question on the fire station,
Yeah.
what's going on with that property? Did we buy that, or do we have the ability to bring,
Well, we bought it.
it's ours?
We
There's
did
no-
purchase it. There is an option that Masonic Home owns after 5 years. If nothing is done with it, that they may purchase it back.
Would they, do you think they would consider that, or?
If they had a project that was more advantageous at the time, they may, but that is their option to
So
exercise.
we're really stuck trying to put our fire department there in the next 3 to 4
But I think.
We paid $180,000 for the
Yeah.
property,
Yeah.
so it's ours at that time.
But could the town sell that to somebody else if the Masonic Home were to pass?
I think that they would hold the right of first refusal.
But the town's not stuck with it.
Yeah.
If the
Correct.
Masonic Home passed, we could put it on any with any realtor and sell it
Yeah,
for market value.
It's, yeah,
It's
in
zone
theory,
village
absolutely.
district.
Was it a right of first refusal or just an automatic turn back and they pay us?
No, they'll make a corporate decision.
Yeah.
We need to take a look at that language.
I was just throwing this out there, I would think, I go by it every day, or Dresser Hill Road would be a perfect place for a fire station, right there. We have the land, it's relatively flat, plenty of room and with all what we're talking about, we need to move forward to alleviate some of the problems we have in space in this town.
One way or another, we have to do something. And
Yes,
It's gonna
no
be,
doubt.
I mean, right now, there's no plan for it, but we're gonna have to start having discussions in the next couple of years around, all right, so what are we going to do? That means we'll see what happens. But no, John, thanks for the question. Gene, did you have a, before I go to Pete? Pete?
I think my view to vote.
No, it's okay, Steve, go.
Yeah, we pushed pretty hard for the public safety building and then a fire station. They both got shot down. But they didn't get shot down by huge numbers. Even the fire station alone was by 3 votes. But the message that it sent to me, and I'm assuming that the rest of the board, is that we need more. Nobody wants to raise homeowners' taxes, so we need more revenue, and we're working on that. A lot of this discussion tonight, 80% of this discussion tonight is to bring more industrial commercial tax revenue into town. And then it becomes almost a moot point.
Thanks, Steve. Pete?
So I was gonna say, the TIF has to go to the town vote. So do we construct this deal in a manner where, we create the TIF, we have a percentage of the total project cost that we allocate some of that to a public safety building or something, that percentage goes into that, and that goes to the vote all in the construct of this TIF agreement. Because I know, for DPH and healthcare, with a determination of need for any healthcare project, 5% of the total project cost goes back to the community. So is there a way to negotiate that into the agreement where, Amazon will pay a portion of the public safety, but they will also get the TIF break as well?
So I guess the difficulty is that with the TIF, you have to strictly look at the percentages. It's up to the community at the end of it to decide how that money is broken out. We can't necessarily say that we guarantee that this much is, but there are certain aspects within the community partnership agreement which may go side by side with that and have other monetary aspects that could address, other things depending on kind of what they want to put their name on. And if, putting dedicated money toward public safety is something that they want to do, then that might be that. But I think it's going to be up to the town as a whole when we set the budget, and that as the revenue comes in, we just can't necessarily say that. And maybe it's an internal policy as we set our budget, but we just can't write it explicitly out in the TIF.
But we can designate it.
When the money comes in, we budget it.
Even for a period of
For any
time.
future debt.
That a percentage
Yeah.
internally, not with the TIF, gets spent on capital expenditures, so we can kind of allocate that money, so,
Which is why it's so important to have the people you want elected at the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, appointed by, the moderator, et cetera, because, to Patsy's point, you can make a policy like we do with free cash, that I'm making something up, that 5% of the operating budget every year, 5% of that has to go to debt payments towards the public safety building.
Right.
That could just be a policy. Problem is, a different board comes along and says, I don't like that policy anymore. because no board is really bound by previous policy. So that's where it gets a little bit dangerous, but that's why, again, I'll wrap myself in a flag, elections are really important. And you want to have the right people there that you trust to make the right decisions with this money. Granted, town meeting always has final say over the budget, but, you know, we argue about, like, town meeting around $500, but we'll have like a $15 million, you know, line item. They're gonna go, okay, it's fine, don't worry about that. You know?
Do we actually have a bylaw to kind of enforce that? Is that something?
I don't know.
No, the Attorney General might have an issue with trying to set future fiscal
The
policy
designate-
based off of.
But you can't put it into a capital account, which then requires 2/3 to get it out, so it can't just be spent on nonsense.
So that's why I'm saying you tie it to the TIF negotiation. So say your TIF's at 40%, then they'll agree, you know, on a separate agreement to put 5% into a public safety building. So, I mean, if they don't agree, then it's 45%. I mean, you know, just structure.
I think you're bound by it, Pete. That's
While
what
we're still in negotiations, and I think where Andrew's heading down the right road with that, and I've had a few conversations with him as well. First meeting we had with him, I said, "Oh, give us $30 million and build a new fire station." He went, "No way." I said, "All right, but I started here, right? So now we have the ceiling of where we started from." And
No, I
then
think it's like Pete said, it's just,
I knew I was
that
being
it's
funny when I
balancing in
said that,
between
but-
and this and that to get to where we want to be. And my consensus to all of this will be that we look into the different sites that Amazon is already, you know, either building or built on. This is standard business procedure, you know, standard business practice, and a contractual, you know, tactic within those contracts. So every single one of them has that TIF. That's what they go after. That's what those big investors are going after. And I think, like everybody here said, and tell me when I'm saying too much, but this town it's a great town, and this is why they're here, because they know that we have great access to the highway, we have a great tax rates, you know, and now the real estate, the business property and why not. So they know that they want to be here, we want them here, so it's gonna work out very well for all of us, I hope.
But I will say, in deference to the planning board, as a reminder to everyone here and at home, that public hearings are still going on. If you have questions at all, go to those hearings. They have not taken a vote. You know, and John, I don't know when that might happen, but it's.
The more public input, the better.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
So.
this
Please
is
come to the meetings.
Yes.
you would-
So there's the public hearing tomorrow, right? Tomorrow night, right? When is
the
your
next
public,
meeting
when is the
is
planning board?
Our next meeting is
the
the
17th,
13th. It's
Yeah,
the second and the fourth Wednesday in October.
So again, that's just, I know we often talk because it was a big thing at town meeting, and it's, you know, it's a big highlight reel, but nothing has been, LNG has not officially been approved. Again, they made a prelim assessment. The other one on Route 20, which is still a project that will not be named, because I don't know if we can, has not, as far as I know, nothing's going on officially with that yet. And Amazon has not been approved. John, unless I'm wrong, is there something else?
They're waiting for approval at 241
Yeah.
for Mass Highway to put a mass.
Right. But did you guys,
that's pretty much-
did you already approve that one?
Yes.
Oh, you did already? Oh, I'm sorry, forgive me, I wasn't aware of that.
You have.
See, that's why we're having this meeting, we're so.
With the Amazon being as close to town, I brought this up several times,
Yeah.
now that hopefully people are listening. You have to consider that building,
Absolutely.
if it goes, that's a campus. That's got a bunch of people in there, and those people need to be able to access the village district by bike, by foot, not by 900 people jumping in cars and going now, because we could never handle that. You're gonna, for it to be successful in this town, we need to one, make sure it's successful for everybody in the town, especially those businesses down there, for future development, to encourage development down there. But two, if we don't get it right now, the money that we're gonna be trying to save and, you know, to like we have a TIF or whatever, we're gonna have to be spending that to remedy some of the problems that is caused by that.
So if the state agrees, there is a distribution center going in, at least approved plans over at 241.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. Yeah, see, again, this is the point of these meetings. So you get that, again, so that one has been approved, but at least, but not by the state yet, right?
They're
just waiting.
They're going through the final motions.
Yeah, I figured, yeah. So more than likely, that's gonna be some type of checkbox to say, yeah, you're good. So you get that going in, but Amazon, again, that has not been approved yet, don't think it is, there's still a lot of steps ahead of that, so again, it's just deference to the planning board on that, I don't even think anything else. All
I think
right,
the technical thing is conditioned on.
yeah, I'm sure. So, but Pete, your point is well taken, and I think there's been a lot of discussion around how best to allocate funds in the future. I mean, I've gone on record saying that my first priority is gonna continue to be capital improvements. And Patsy the same, and I think, Steve, David, and Bosch are the same as well. I mean, granted, we all have our priorities and nuances we're gonna have to, compromise on. But then it's public safety, but to me, it's capital inclusive of infrastructure has to come first. Then we start increasing the operating budget. So I would like to think we're gonna get to where you wanna go, maybe just not the way you were thinking, but I think, but your idea is good, let's put it that way.
Can I ask you to consider one more thing with
Always
the TIF?
be.
A percentage of it goes to reduce taxes, then you'll get the public to buy into a TIF. Especially for.
Is this rolling into you?
I don't believe that, and you can't legally do that. I mean, I think the TIF is really an exemption that you're agreeing to, but it's up to the voters, absolutely, at each meeting that we go to, as far as budgets are concerned, where that money's gonna go and whether you wanna spend it. There'll be additional revenue.
As the superintendent's not to lose their mind, don't worry about it, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, clearly get 241, it's, pretty close to that's coming, LNG is coming, Amazon, it's early, but these things come in, there's a lot of additional revenue. You can't take the TIF and tie it directly to saying you're gonna fund that, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but that's been my understanding when we've talked to the state about getting approval. But the townspeople can vote, they come to town meeting, they can vote on where that money does get spent. And in the future, what other things as budgetary items that we vote at next meeting in May, so.
And a little known budgetary feature that is very rare in Massachusetts. Everyone knows about the override. Not everyone knows about the underride. You can actually lower your tax limit. It's the same exact process. It's a bit tricky, and only a handful of towns have done it because it often causes problems. But there's nothing prohibiting the towns from doing that either. Roger?
From a taxpayer standpoint, if the taxes don't go up and you want to build something and it doesn't increase the taxes, I think people will vote for it, just my opinion. Never mind reduce taxes, I wouldn't even think about that. I'm just happy if they don't go up, to be quite
We have
honest.
pretty low taxes here. I mean,
Yeah,
really
we do.
don't have high taxes.
We do.
All right. So any other questions for Gene and John? We good? Cool. Or for us? Anyone else at the back table? Was it recreation back there?
Oh, hi, everybody.
Hey.
I'm Diane Doherty from Charlton Recreation. With me tonight is Kevin Moran. We're a three-member board. One of our members, Sherry Zanker, is absent tonight. But we're basically a very active board, even though we only meet once a month. Our meetings have been held Zoom for a while, since COVID started. We really don't have a workspace in town, which I've discussed with Andrew. I know you're talking about spacing being critical, but my files are at home. But we try to work with the leagues and the presidents of the leagues and those boards for soccer, football, baseball. And we work with the Department of Public Works to make sure the fields are maintained. We have the playground, we have the skate park, we have the basketball court. In the fields that are available, we try to work with the scheduling, and everybody's been great cooperating with that. We do have some projects in the works right now. We're working with McClure Engineering for American Disabilities Act to get Maynard Field in compliance. It's been a long-term project, but we're hoping, we keep our fingers crossed that it's going to move forward, working with the various boards as well. But that field has been out of compliance, not handicapped accessible for a long time. So we're trying to get that taken care of. And would love to see a phase 2 on the skate park. We put in some basic things for the kids to use. It's a skate park that's used for rollerblading, skateboarding, bicycling. It's a multi-purpose, multi-age accessible. So eventually would love to add some more parts to it. But right now we're dealing with cracks in the skate park and in the basketball court. We had it resurfaced recently. And with the water runoff from the hill, it just keeps, the cracks keep opening up. This is New England, so the paving company that we hired assures us they're gonna try to come back and try to fix some of those cracks, but I think it's gonna be an ongoing issue. So that might be a big expense down the road. But the basketball court came out beautiful, and the kids have been using it a lot. And one of the ideas that came to us was a band shell. And I know that, you know, we talked about entertainment. We'd love to have some sort of entertainment built somewhere, somehow, because I guess land is unavailable and parking is not available, but that would be something that we'd love to see down the road.
Use space like Carson Zorowski's day, basically.
Karen, did you want to add anything? I think that's it. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but.
Don't catch us for short. The playground for the children, for the kids, it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
Kate was working so hard at the old home day, you know, helping move the children. Thank you so much for everything you do. I think it's very, very
I really
important.
enjoy these meetings, this all boards meeting, because it gives us a voice and a chance to tell you what people are asking us for and what we'd like to do. And my suggestion to the board, maybe not just wait for an all boards meeting, but for individual boards to meet with you maybe once a year individually as a board to board, to discuss any type of projects.
Every other Tuesday, it's a great time.
Right, I know, but I mean, have the board come and have it as a posted meeting, and then we could prepare and give you, you know, what we're working on and keep the communication lines open. So if you do get tax incentives and things in the future, you could consider sending money our way for the kids.
Something about it like a squeaky wheel, but it's true. That's how it works. You know, people who yell the loudest, and I mean that nicely.
But this is a question, because I might not even know the answer, but you were talking about office space. I don't know what you really need. Are you looking for office space or something?
Well, we used to, our office was in the conservation room. We have two small file drawers. We had a huge file drawer, but conservation, as it grew and grew and grew, they pretty much took over. Recreation kind of got edged out. So our files we have overflowing files and blueprints and things in two of the drawers. We used to conduct our meetings there. Our all boards, we have a sports meeting, you know, once a year, but we don't have that anymore. With COVID, we've been doing everything with Zoom, but we could use some workable space. My personal cell phone number is on the website, because we don't even have a telephone number to reach. And I've talked to some of the things. Andrew said that he's going to work with, you know, bringing some of that more communication with us. But it's been, you know, it would be nice if everybody knew who we were and what we do.
No, Andrew's list just keeps getting longer every week.
I know.
So
I
how are we doing on
know.
like item 48?
Horrible taking up his time. He's got so
Well,
many
I think my question was, and I honestly don't know. I mean, with all the, with all the talk about office space, I know the senior center we're growing that, but is there any room in the library, in the front part? Any office space you could?
It's almost as though we might have a member of the library board of trustees. Oh, Stefan.
I recall at your last meeting, you were talking about cleaning out a junk room down here. That you might want to look at for a meeting space for them.
Okay, so the library, that's a
Library.
no.
Yeah, we don't need a daily office space. We just need someplace to put our things and maybe hold a meeting once in a while. We have been doing it here. Initially, we did it here a couple of times downstairs, but just, it would be nice, and you know, make it a little bit more open. If somebody came in and said, hey, I've had many people call and say, we were in the town hall looking for recreation, we couldn't find you. You know, it's like, where are you?
Like, we were joking around about that other room. We were having an adventure around the town hall, and we found like a secret room that needs to be finished. Like the kids will play. Is there any other classrooms or anything that just need to be kind of cleaned up?
So basically, the allocation of space in this office, or in this space, is that the bottom half of that wing, 3/4 of it is children. So that's, you know, a pretty significant space in there. That one little corner right there is basically all of our long-term record storage and minor amount and very small amount of just junk. I mean, the junk that's in that hallway is in there because there's really nowhere else to put it. And then as you come down that hall, there's one office that's shared by the cemetery commission, the veterans agent, and some file storage. A 10 by 10 room that has file storage for accounting, and some other offices in that room, because there's just, they're working out of a closet, so in order to give them a little bit more space, we gave them some space for their filing cabinets all the way down here. And then basically it's IT, and then the senior center space that we're in right now, that's basically gonna fight for space. And then the space needs upstairs are pretty well documented, so unfortunately, we're not necessarily growing here, and it's just been kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul for our space, but unfortunately, continue to try to think of new, what's the next move to help our problems, knowing that public safety is a huge need that kind of trumps everything.
And I appreciate you coming, and you are officially on our radar. Which is
Yes, for your all boards meeting, you can use space at our schools. You could just reach out and just let us know, and we'll schedule, we'll give you space for a meeting.
Nice, dude.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the rec? Again, one of those.
It's actually nice.
Oh, wait, Kristen, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not really a question, it's a big thank you.
Yeah.
I reached out for help with the backstop and you guys facilitated getting it repaired. It's really quick, so thank you so much. And also, the basketball court came out great, and I know a whole collection of kids that use it every Saturday, so thank you very much.
We tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really unsung heroes because, you kind of stay under the radar off TV, but yet you have to deal with sports parents. And, yeah, honestly, for as many political tussles I've been in, I will never touch sports politics. Ever. Ever. It's vicious. So, again, thank you for everything that you do. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Cool. All right. Next up, let's go library and then Superintendent Brenner.
Well, the biggest issue that the library was facing this year is the fact that our library director, Cheryl Hanson, is retiring on October 30th. And so the major job of the trustees is to hire a new library director. When is your next meeting?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
The
I'll make
28th.
an official announcement at the public forum of who we've hired.
Oh, really? That's exciting. Look at you trying to make the build up.
Well, that's a wonderful then.
All right.
We had a very eventful year. The COVID did shut the library down for a little while, which was actually okay. We got the walls painted by one of our library workers. We have a very diverse staff there. It's capable of doing all kinds of other things. But during the year, we also started up providing services of live lobby pickup, which took off tremendously before most of the other libraries in the surrounding communities got to that point. And they were providing all kinds of project-based kind of packets for kids to be taken out of the library. And then we did start circulating once we got the approval of health department of actually having people in the library. Basically, circulation of what we put out to the community was far superior to the community surrounding us because we were doing it before most of them. And we did open up fully before most of them. It will eventually even out as people go back to their home communities, but I think we did a phenomenal job of continuing to provide the kind of services we ought to be providing. Future kind of work things that might need to be done, I'm never quite sure whether we have some leaks in our old part of our building. We did have some shingles replaced free of charge by a community member in town on a newer building. But I also know we've got some gutter leaks here and there on the newer building also that we're concerned about any kind of damage to the wood that's underneath the paint. But we'll see how it goes. There's some effort to do some repairs on that without major work.
Actually, I just saw that great write-up, I can't remember where it was from, that someone did a tour of like
Yeah,
Central Mass
there's
libraries.
two guys who travel around libraries and they kind of, we're not looking forward to coming over to Charlton after they had previously visited another library that, in a not too distant neighbor, and they were not warmly welcomed, and they were concerned when they got into our library, and the staff said, oh, you need to talk to our director. Because they already knew who they were, but they didn't let on that they knew who they were. And they had a phenomenal visit, a phenomenal tour, and just were having a really good time with everybody over there, which is how our library is operating right now, and it'll be operating in the future as well that way.
Perfect. Thank you. And Linda, I know you do a ton of work over there too, so thank you for everything you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
19 years as a trustee, I don't know how long I'm going. This may be my last term.
Oh, don't say that.
Well, I just started my 3 years.
It's funny, I say that and people cheer. I don't know what time. Questions for the library board trustees? Hearing none, thank you again for everything that you do. Superintendent Brenner, always nice to see you.
Same here, same here.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Talk to us, what's going on?
Sure. For those that don't know me, this is my second year as superintendent at Bay Path. My name is Kyle Brenner, and I want to start by thanking the board and all the departments and the many individuals that support us and give us the direction that we need so that we can provide our students with a rigorous and relevant career vocational technical education. So they can be their best for both their future and all of our futures as well. So I hope the town of Charlton has enjoyed having us in the community as much as we've enjoyed calling Charlton our home. We opened this year with one of our largest student bodies, just under 1,200 students. Of that, 209 are Charlton residents. The breakdown is 53 freshmen, 49 sophomores, 53 juniors, and 54 seniors. We have just over 200 staff, and with that amount of people returning to the building, full-time in person, we're very excited about that. We have increased traffic, and we've been in touch with the rec department about using the Maynard Field parking lot. We'll be utilizing that again. We've notified all our students and the families that that is the only approved satellite parking lot. So specifically, they're notified that they shouldn't be parking behind the library. We'll continue to monitor that and work with the town to address any ongoing issues with that. As you know, we opened this year with the mask requirements, and we continue with a robust cleaning and disinfecting regime on that. And we just came online today, this morning, with the mass immunization information services. So MIS is tied in with our SNAP, which is our health services software. So as of, and that's real-time immunization information. So as of today, we have 53% of our student body that is fully vaccinated and another 3% partially vaccinated on that. And we continue to monitor that, and that'll be on our COVID dashboard going forward. So people can log in and check that out and see the number of immunizations by grade, and hopefully we'll get the staff numbers in there as well. We do continue to implement strategies to keep our school open and provide a healthy and safe environment for everybody. One of those strategies is COVID-19 testing. So when the state offered that, we signed up for it. We have a little trouble getting the programs going. We had hoped to be online much earlier than this. We're still working out some details with the state and their provider, but when it does come online, we'll be testing students or staff that develop symptoms during the day. Again, the mantra is if you have a symptom, stay home. When in doubt, stay out. If they are there and they develop some of the minor symptoms, we can do a test on that and they can stay, or recommend no, go home and get a PCR test on that. And also the test and stay, the official test and stay will be for close contacts. So our goal is to keep students in. They're back, we're happy they're back. It's hard to teach welding through a computer, so we want them in person. And with the test and stay, we hope to keep the majority of our quarantine students in the school with negative tests on that. So those are the two. We'll be using rapid antigen tests to do that. We are open for all staff and students, and we have limited our public services to do our part in suppressing the spread on that. So our cosmetology department isn't open to the public. Our restaurant, we're happy to say, is back to curbside again, so you can get online and see the many wonderful specials there and pick those up. We've modified how our automotive tech and automotive collision repair intake cars and deliver those cars and work on those. And we continue to maintain our off-campus work sites, and we've started a new house build in Auburn on that, as well as we're putting the final touches on our Second Chance Animal Shelter in Southbridge, which will also be the home of our new veterinary assistant program. So we're happy to bring that online. We're excited about that, as well as a lot of the students too. So our evening programs are up and running. While we have many more offerings than last year, we were able through COVID to maintain just the trades, electrical, plumbing, trades like that. We have more of the enrichment courses and a lot more courses, not quite to the level that we had pre-pandemic, but we're happy to have those back online now, and I encourage everyone to check out the online course offerings. They've got everything from the trades, blacksmithing, real estate, to mama's eggplant. So we're happy to have that back. I am proud to announce that our LPN program was just ranked 15 for the top nursing programs in Massachusetts. So, so we're doing a great job. And that, last year we completed our NEAS decennial accreditation process, and we're looking forward to a favorable report on that. That should be coming out in October. And we are completely appreciative of the recent $73 million building renovation on that. However, a review through NEAS, our heavily used fields, athletic fields, are in need of an upgrade on that. So we will be looking at that, and I sat in a good place. I'll be talking to the planning board about resurrecting a unique way to fund those fields through alternative green energy, solar field on that, perhaps.
Anytime I hear alternative funding, I get excited, so thank you.
Yeah, it's really unique, so we're very fiscally responsible. I think, you've seen that with our budgets and so forth. So we look forward to work with the town Charlton Planning Board on looking at if we can resurrect that plan on that. Additionally, the only other capital thing we were looking at is our deteriorating information sign at the entrance. We'll be looking at working with the planning board or zoning board about putting up a similar electronic sign like in front of the library on that. So we'll be in touch on that.
You can have that one.
We'll pick it up. But yeah, again, we look forward to working with the town, and we appreciate all the support.
And again, we appreciate you coming. I know you were hired at a very inopportune time, and I know that nicely. Yeah, it was literally like, oh, okay, new superintendent. Oh, by the way, we have COVID, so I'm shutting down. Like, oh, okay. I mean, clearly, I want to keep those lines of communication open between all the districts, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of the board for once. But I say, again, we welcome some type of student representative to come join us up. I know it's the first time that we've extended the offer to our friends over at Bay Path, so I know you have a lot going on. But again, with the principal, and obviously, with your side, Steve,
Principal Chaplin and I spoke this week, and he is identifying somebody.
Sweet, like I said.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, like I said, just no rush. I just want to make sure that again, it was one of those things that I was always thinking about it and saying, well, I don't know why we don't have someone say that. And we're like, oh, okay, yeah, let's just bring that or her, that type of thing.
We're so fun. I mean,
look at us.
they would love to do it.
Right?
No, it is great. It's a great forum.
Questions for the superintendent? I know generally you fly under the radar because that's a good thing. Much like I tell our police chief, as long as he keeps us out of the paper, I'm happy.
I have a positive comment. So I have reached out to the school, a few teachers and students throughout last few months working on different projects with different boards. But we have actually right now, and every single time they were very anxious and eager to help. So I appreciate it. Both teachers and the students. We couldn't utilize them when we asked first because of COVID. But now we actually have a couple of students working on the RAISE Foundation, website. They actually gonna blog for us, which is pretty cool. So it's gonna help our website, to get the Google optimization up and everything going. We just got it live going. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
We are a resource for the community, so
yeah,
again,
very
a lot of
a very good one too. So.
Good opportunities and faces that we can contact, for construction projects, for all of that. So yeah.
And take advantage of the lunch. I'm not kidding. It is really good. Other questions for the superintendent? John?
I have a question. It's beautiful up there. My wife and I walk up there all the time, but our big question is and it's nice to walk up there at night, but that thing's bright as bright can be at night. Is there any way to?
And during the day, unfortunately, we took a lightning strike,
Yeah.
and we're working on putting those back online. So they are timed for all the uses of it, so
Okay.
that there is an ambient light just when nobody's up there. But we did take it Sunday. I went up there in the middle of the day, and all the lights were on.
It seems like a tremendous waste of energy up there.
Complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
We get the solar field in there, then.
The solar field, there is a moratorium on solar, but I think the town carved out
Municipalities.
municipality.
I thought when John first started talking, I thought he was looking for a little candlelight for their walk. There is that. I thought he was.
Well, thanks, Superintendent, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Christine, how we doing?
Yeah. Linda, did you want to go first? I don't want to. Okay. Go ahead. All right. So I'm Chris Krondalski. I'm the current chair of the Cultural Council, and I'm actually in the first year of my second 3-year term. And I'm not alone. I have one colleague on the board that is also in that same situation. So just a little bit of information on the Cultural Council. We are a small and mighty board, maybe one person more than my friends on the Recreation Council. And by Mass Cultural Council criteria, we need to have 5 voting members. We have 5 members, but one is an ex officio and cannot participate in the voting and grant selection process. So for those watching at home, fill out your talent form, come join us. We meet the 4th Thursday of every month, and we tend to meet at the library, either in the community room or in the history room. So recently I did approach Andrew about putting a posting. The state requires at least 5 participants on the board, but we can have up to 22 by mass law. And so we're looking for at least 2 others in addition to the replacement position. So for those that are interested, we would welcome you to consider being a part of our group. This year, for the fiscal year 2022 grant cycle from the state, the amount has increased to $8,500 that we have to grant. Last year, we only had 9 applicants, primarily driven by COVID and limitations. I think folks were struggling to figure out ways to hold programs, although we did not decline anyone that proposed a Zoom or remote program as long as they could demonstrate how they were going to reach the community. The year before that, we had 15 applicants, and we granted 13 grants, and we did do an extension of the funds that were granted. Again, typically a grant recipient has a year to utilize the funds, but we extended it to this December, and a large majority of the folks that received funds have completed their programs. I know there's been a few at the senior center, and we've been able to link in and tap into the recording, so thank you, Elaine, for posting those. And I'm happy to see that the seniors are receiving the benefit of those grants. And so, we do, though, have a handful of grant recipients that those funds will expire for them in December. So in terms of what we're doing about that, I would say over the past 2 years, in particular the last 12 months, the Cultural Council has tried to increase our social media presence. We actually have an Instagram account, we have a Twitter account, and we've always been pretty active on the Facebook page, and currently have 538 followers, and that's grown pretty significantly in the past 12 months. Again, some of our recipients are better than others as far as notifying us when they're having a program, so we try to get in front of that. But for those in the community that have been recipients, make sure that you let us know before a program is held. A couple other things. In terms of this past year, we were happy to be able to bring back the art show, and I want to thank Barbara for and the Board of Selectmen overall for for supporting that activity. We had 52 entrants, and so, you know, the community was really happy to be able to have that come back. And we had a lot of good positive feedback. Folks were missing the People's Choice. We took it away this year just because we weren't sure what type of crowds would be coming through the building. We'll bring that back. And we're also expanding the categories, the categories to include fabric arts. So we had some quilters and yarn artists come and approach us. So there might be an opportunity for some partnership with the Charlton Sewing Center or other groups. In terms of projects, the Cultural Council has access to funds that we can submit as a project that's supported by the council. And so I know that Barbara, you've indicated in one of the recent Board of Selectmen meetings that there is a desire and interest to bring back some other events on the common or in public spaces. And so I'd encourage the board, if you want to apply for a grant, that's an opportunity. The applications are due by the 15th of October. So just putting that plug out there. And then lastly, what we did notice during the art show was that a number of the art hangers are corroded. We'd like to explore how we could maybe partner with the town by maybe making some joint purchases of some of those hangers. They live up in the attic. It's not temperature controlled. Andrew, you know this. We have a little corner in the attic where we keep the hangers, and I know that some of them get used for town pieces of art as well. It's limited, but the art show hangers are at least 35 years old, and they're rusted and gross and challenging to handle, so more to come on that.
There's a metal fab shop right there.
There we go, maybe.
Yeah.
So thank you and thank you for inviting the Cultural Council to come to talk tonight.
No, thank you, that's great. Yeah. Questions for the Cultural Council? Hearing none. Anything else you want to do?
I'm here for Earth Day, Linda Davis. So we have our Earth Day event every year in April, last Saturday in April, and that's all donations and volunteers, and we had a lot of donations this year. The Recreation Commission bought us some safety vests, and we are also doing this October, first Saturday in October, we have a lot of leftover yellow trash bags. So we're having a mini cleanup. We're not having people sign up for roads, but you can come and get the bags. The last Tuesday of September, we'll be in the library from 5 to 7. And then Thursday, we'll be in the town hall lobby from 9:45 to 11:15. And then Saturday, October 2nd, we'll be out on the common in the gazebo giving out yellow bags. So we're trying to encourage people to get out and pick up some trash before the leaves come down, before the snow covers it. It's a constant issue in this town. And I do want to say that we have a lot of participation for Earth Day. We picked up over 2 tons of trash this Earth Day. It's usually close to 3 tons every year. And we had people who contacted me after Earth Day who for some reason or another couldn't make it, and they still wanted to pick up trash. And we had leftover bags, so I gave them the bags, but the dumpster was gone, and they contacted Highway, and Highway not only said, yeah, we'll take the bags, they went out and picked the bags up off the road. And I just want to give a shout out to Highway for being so supportive in our efforts to try and clean up the earth. And beyond the point of litter, I know we need a fire station, we need a senior center, we need all of this stuff for the town, and there's a lot of talk about taxes and fiscal and where's the money. But we have to remember that money doesn't buy everything. Money doesn't buy us clean water, clean air. We have invasive species, we have problems with the water. There are things that property owners can do. We can plant for pollinators. I just would like to see all of the boards have a thought in their mind when you're making decisions, whatever it is that you're doing, to think about the earth, the animals, the plants, because they can't come to the meeting. They can't tell you what they need. So it's up to us, all of us, to work for the earth. So just want to, I'm not the Lorax, but if it could be, I mean, the trees need a voice, the animals need a voice, and I would encourage everyone to keep the environment in their minds whenever they're doing anything.
No, excellent. We appreciate everything that you do. I mean, it's both good and horrifying that, 2,000 pounds of trash gets picked up, or 3,000 pounds of trash gets picked up. It's like, oh, that's great, but then you realize, wait a minute, there was 3,000 pounds of trash on the side of the road.
And 2 weeks later,
It's right back.
it's right down the road again. So there are people in town who pick up all the time. They call themselves trash walkers. You've probably seen them. They're out there with their bags, they have their walks, they pick up trash. So
Thank God.
tip of the hat for all those people too. It's a community effort.
And you were very successful with the leaves, where people were bringing the leaves.
Oh,
that
that's a
was,
whole
I thought that was
committee.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
but
whole
I thought that was
different,
great. I think there should be
but yeah,
more.
we are doing.
Yeah, it should be more put out
Deb's
there.
on that as well.
Right.
We're trying to get.
Deb, why don't you say something about that?
The Sustainability Committee. I'm Debbie Marquis, and I'm here for recycling, but I'm also on the Earth Day Committee and the Charlton Sustainability Committee, which a group of us got together to try to deal with yard waste based on some citizens' complaints that they don't have a place to get rid of this stuff, and it leads to tick bites and things like that. So we did do work this year in the spring. We had four days that people could bring their yard waste to the DPW building, and we have 4 more days this fall. And that flyer should be going out soon to let people know when those are.
Last 2 Saturdays of October and first 2 of November. And again, shout out to Highway for letting us use the facility and creating a space for people to bring, and we volunteer and monitor, so people are only bringing leaves, branches, organic material, no tires, no.
I know Andrew and I met with some members of the committee, and that's, let's just say that is at the forefront of our strategic view of our next steps when it comes to that. So it's definitely on the horizon.
Yeah, I live down at the end of the common, and all summer long we've had a bunch of turkeys, 2 adults, and the rest little babies, and they crisscross the road all the time. And one of the little babies got hit by a car. And I had to bury it, but it traumatized one of the neighbor kids because she saw the whole thing. Maybe we need a turkey crossing sign down there.
I'm actually okay with that.
But they don't slow down. I mean, they really zip down by Main Street. You know that.
Yeah, I mean, if we have turtle crossings, we got turkey crossings.
But then you get to teach the turkeys.
Well, I was going to say, if you like pictures. Deb, anything else from your side?
I just wanted to, I came really tonight to represent the recycling committee because I'm the chairman, and my name again is Debbie Marquis. And we just had 4 things to mention, that every year we try for the Small Scales Initiative grant through the DEP. Every year we've gotten it. It's only for $1,000, but we use it to buy 30% recycled products that we then sell. You've probably all seen our table up on the floor upstairs. And we buy signs, anti-littering signs that are really all over town. And we try to help people become better recyclers in their own homes. The Household Hazardous Waste Day is another thing that because we're under the Board of Health, we, with them, work to put together the voucher system, which this Saturday is the next Household Hazardous Waste Day at the old Casellas in Southbridge. And we didn't have good attendance to it in March, and then in June, I went to it and had a bunch of vouchers with me and gave out quite a number of them to Charlton people who came and didn't know to sign up for a voucher at the Board of Health, but so I gave out quite a few, and I plan to be there again from 9 to 1 on Saturday to make sure that people get the voucher that they're due. And the other thing is we were part of Keep Mass Beautiful. They provided us with Charlton with a whole bunch of free pickers, gloves, and T-shirts in 2020. And our plan this year, although with COVID it's gotten off kind of slow, was to become a chapter community as part of Keep Mass Beautiful. But the other good thing is the Earth Day Committee is going to pick up litter this fall, which is great to get that out of there before winter. And one thing we're working on right now is the selectmen may know, and the Board of Health certainly knows, that we'd like an anti-littering bylaw in Charlton. So we will be meeting with Board of Health again, hopefully in October, to try and get it nailed down and see if it's something that they're willing to give their approval, so that we can then go in front of the Board of Selectmen and maybe that will come to pass.
Thanks, Debbie. You're one of those examples of like unsung heroes that these things don't just happen. It's volunteers like you that make it work. I mean, so really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. It just, because again, you don't have to do any of this, but you're literally making the world a better place every day. So, very well done.
Thank you.
Any questions, Debbie?
Actually, quick statement. As far as recycling, I don't know how long the vouchers last for or if they run out, but just so every citizen in town knows, you can take pretty much anything in Staples and they'll take it.
I just went there today.
I bring batteries, computers, TVs, monitors, everything.
Oh, yeah?
I felt kind of bad, but I've been told by the man at the Dunkin' Donuts store that you can, he said, I was putting up our poster of Hazardous Waste Day, and the man in the store said, he said, you can bring anything electronics to Staples. He said, I just did it. And I went to Staples today to see if it's true, and they do. They had a shopping cart next to their tech center in Auburn in the store. And he says you can bring computers, monitors, printers, anything.
They do it down in Charlton, in Sturbridge as well. That's where I go.
Yeah.
I bring shopping carts of stuff. They don't like it when I
I don't want to see your basement. I'm just going to tell you right now.
So, and there's no cost. So if you go to Casella on an off day where there's no voucher or anything, they'll charge you $20 for a computer or $10. You go to Staples, it's free.
Yeah.
Take your hard drive out before you bring it there.
Yeah, two separate things.
I know when I do it Saturday with the vouchers, I feel bad now because I feel like I should be telling people when I'm walking the line, you don't have to pay $20 for that, you can bring it to me. But I don't know if I should do that.
They take toner as well, which is kind of hard to get rid of. So all the toner, they recycle that, they inkjet cartridges, batteries from battery backup units that go in the charge rooms and everything else.
That's good to know, Chip. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you. And thanks, David. Virginia, are you being masochistic? Or just one of that stuff? We've seen you more in the past month and a half. I'm so excited. I know. Yeah. Is there anything that you want to throw out there for us?
I'll make it short and sweet, because I don't.
And you love being on TV.
I love it. So the only thing I have to say is the auction last week, I thought was pretty successful. Town had 10 parcels that were up for auction, and 8 out of 10 of them were sold. Basically all I got. Past my bedtime, I'm tired, so I don't have anything to say. If anybody has any questions,
Questions for Virginia, who's doing a fabulous job, by the way, since her mom.
As
What's that?
the new tax code.
Yeah.
Her role, just for people who don't know.
Yes. Virginia, why don't you introduce yourself formally with your title? God, I love embarrassing with TV.
Yeah. I'm Virginia Porter, and I'm the treasure collector.
Virginia's been a long-time employee and recently got a well-deserved promotion, so we are all very excited. Thanks, Virginia. All right, I'm gonna let you off the hook now. I'm not even asking for those questions. Commissioner Boria.
Do I get a pass?
No, not nice try.
No report.
Yeah, talk to us. What's going on in your world?
I'm Pete Boria. I'm the Water Sewer Superintendent. I work for the Water and Sewer Commission. So on the water side of things, actually on water and sewer, day-to-day operations are going fairly well. I guess I judge that by minimal complaint calls. So day-to-day things are good. On the water side, many of you have been following the ExxonMobil water line improvement that's been being done. We have connected about 120 homes so far of the 138 who have committed to connect and who have agreed to have ExxonMobil connect them for free. There's still about 60 or 70 residents left with that ability. Some of them have said no, and some have had no response. So currently ExxonMobil is doing a certified mailing every quarter to all abutters to the new water line to remind them that they have the ability to connect. And that ability stops on April 6th of 2022. So I know at our commission meetings, we keep on bringing that up every meeting, that the deadline is April 6th of 2022 for your free connection. After that, you'll still be able to connect, but it'll be your cost. So if you want to, again, access that benefit, now's the time.
And you said April 6th, 2022.
Yes.
Right.
So. Another thing we have going on with for the water side is we're reviewing proposals to install an access road to the Buffinville Public Water Supply well field. Again, the commission, we've been working on trying to develop that property for the last, I'm going to say, 3.5 years. And it's definitely a slow process, working through DEP, working with the engineers, especially through COVID. But we have identified a possible source of about 225 to 275,000 gallons per day in that area. Now it's just trying to delineate what that cost is going to be and see if it's worth the money to get to that water at this time. We currently have an intermunicipal agreement with Southbridge to provide us up to 500,000 gallons of water per day. Of that, we're currently using about 160 to 170. So water side's looking pretty good. As far as sewer goes, we're in the process of negotiating a new operations agreement with Veolia, who currently operates our treatment plant. Their current agreement expires on November 1st of 21. Working with Andrew, we put out an RFP for new proposals this summer. We had maybe 4 companies take out the proposals, but received 1 bid from Veolia to actually operate the plant. So we're currently in negotiations with them to try and modify that to get the increase down so it's stomachable for the commission and we won't have to raise the rates for the users. So we're working on that now. We're also working with Woodin and Curran to complete a $200,000 SCADA upgrade at the sewer treatment plant. That's been slow moving with, again, supply chain issues, trying to get all the new technical equipment that we need to do so. But we're hoping to have that completed by February of 2022. And we're also working with Veolia and Wright Pierce to create a proposal for improvements to the sewer treatment plant to be funded by the ARPA funds. I'd like to thank Andrew for including us in his preliminary budget to use some of the ARPA funds to do some improvements at the treatment plant. And hopefully we'll have a proposal in front of him soon, in front of the board soon for approval to do the engineering design for a couple of improvements within the treatment plant itself. So I know, Mr. Borowski, you talked about boards working hand in hand and sharing information. I'd just like to give kudos to Andrew for setting up development team meetings. So on the staff level, again, we have development team meetings once a month where department heads come together and talk about all the projects that are ongoing, so we share information there to make sure that we don't have any overlaps in what we're looking at for information, and to make sure the developers are giving us consistent information between the different boards, and that seems to be working out very, very well.
No, thanks. Excellent. Appreciate it. Good job. Any questions? Any questions for Peter?
I just want to give a shout out for your help with us with Heritage School. Before the school year started, you were on the spot, you worked collaboratively with everybody. We really greatly appreciate your work and support to get the school open on time and with water.
Yeah, I'm glad that worked out. Thank you.
See, I actually love to hear that feedback, so thank you. No, that's actually really nice. Because let's be honest, we're all in government, we all get the complaints from everyone, and we get yelled at a lot. It's nice to know, like to hear that, yes, XYZ person is doing a nice job, so they can be well done.
Yeah. Again, that was a collaborative effort. That wasn't just on me. That was the contractor, the engineer, the school saying, yes, let's move forward, and just getting it done when it needed to, so.
It took everybody, that included you, so thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve.
I have a question.
Please, Linda.
About the water source in Buffinville?
Yes.
If we were to access that, then would we need to build a water treatment plant for that? Or do we have a facility already that would treat the water?
Initially, based on the water results we got, it wouldn't be because it's a gravel packed well, it's not surface water, so it's groundwater, it wouldn't need a lot of treatment, but there would be some type of treatment that would need to. So there would be a small treatment facility built on site that would treat the water before it went out into the distribution system.
But it would be well water?
Yeah, it would just be, again, there's 100 feet of gravel to bedrock, and we're going to, the screen, it would be set about 100 feet deep in the ground, and it would be nice, gravel pack. It's not a bedrock well that's 500 feet deep, so you can identify the recharge area because of the gravel and with Buffinville right there. So you can pretty much identify where the water is getting drawn from and how much recharge it'll be. And again, we've done preliminary test results, but to really develop it, we'd have to spend quite a bit of time, drill some much bigger wells and do some real, 4 or 5 day pump tests. They really monitor, the other private wells in the area, the levels at Buffinville, and make sure that those big pump tests didn't have a negative effect on any other surrounding water wells.
And is this because we want to be independent of Southbridge, or where you anticipate the need for more water?
Both. This could be a first step to get our way to becoming autonomous. It's not, again, if there was a 1 million gallon per day proposed anticipated supply there, then we could say, yeah, let's develop it, and we can, not really sever ties with Southbridge, but just start to distance ourselves and operate our own system. But because it's only 225,000 gallons per day, it's there, and if we don't use it now, it will be there 5, 10, 15 years from now, when who knows what the need could be. So I think it was a good thing to identify. We've gotten to a good spot. Do we want to spend 10 to 12 to $15 million now to develop it fully, or do we want to just sit and really? So the commission's going to be meeting, I think it's October 5th, they set a meeting just to discuss this topic, to really narrow down on what we've done, kind of what we've gotten to, and what it's going to cost to get it into full production. And they're going to be figuring out, 1, where could they try and get that funding, and 2, is it worth spending that kind of money now for that amount of water? So,
Gene, do you have something?
Yeah, have either one of the 2 warehouse facilities been in contact with you for
Yes.
water and or sewer?
yeah, so as part of the development team meetings, we've been discussing it with both. Yeah, so they've, so the one on 241 Sturbridge Road will have to extend the water line approximately maybe less than a quarter of a mile, because it's really close to where our current water line is. Sewer line will have to get extended, I think, just over 1.5 miles to 2 miles. 53 Sturbridge Road, the infrastructure's right there in front of it, they can just connect on. As far as water capacity, there's more than enough to provide water to both facilities. For potable water, as far as their fire suppression system, they're working out some finer details on that we're going to have a meeting on tomorrow to discuss. In sewer, it's not a lot of usage. I think 241 might be 10,000 gallons per day, and 53 Sturbridge Road is about 17 to 20,000 gallons per day. So we should be able to accommodate that, so that, again, trying to be pro-development, try and make it happen so we're not the roadblock for them not to come into town.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Thank
Pete,
you.
Pete, I think your role along with the commission is going to be magnified over the upcoming years. So again, just wanted you to know that we appreciate all that you're doing.
Sure. And again, if anyone has any questions or wants to know where we're at, just reach out and try and get any information we can to you.
Cool. Thanks. Thank you. Josh, do you want to say anything from EDC, or just kind of?
No, absolutely. Name's Josh Saper. I'm the current chair of the Economic Development Commission. So the Economic Development Commission has been reformed over the last couple of years. I've kind of been absentee. So a couple different initiatives that we've been focused on in no particular order, some of which kind of ties in with some of the conversations that we have. But as everyone is looking for funds either to offset taxes or accommodate any kind of growth or amenities, infrastructure that the town needs, we're really looking to grow the commercial tax base. If anybody knows, the commercial tax base currently is split 80% residential to 20%. Most towns in the area try to balance around 60-40, which we are ways off. So that's going to be one of our major focuses on how we can fill that gap, because obviously that would address several of the other issues, finance issues that we had brought up. In terms of marketing, we've spent some time doing some outreach to current business owners, residents, and developers, getting much of the feedback that you would expect. We did put out a brief survey that we got some feedback from about 100 people, residents in town, who are all about 85% in support of economic development moving further in Charlton. Specifically in order, small to medium-sized businesses infrastructure improvements, then followed by redevelopment of target parcels, and then also permanent open space as well. So we've gotten some feedback from business owners, much to the same things that the planning board has spoke about, just consistency in processes, updates in zoning, anything that can streamline or make development a little less cumbersome. And then we're really focusing now on putting some marketing together for the commission, kind of utilizing some of the things that tools that we've used in the past, and just kind of revamping that up to our what's currently going on in town and what the residents and businesses want to see moving forward.
Well, thanks, Josh. Anything else, any questions for Josh? I mean, I know it's one of those boards that it's very strategic in nature, but yet tactical at times, so it's kind of a strange mix to be able to attract business, but yet at the same time say, right, so how are we all gonna?
A lot of moving parts. I mean, like I said, we've touched on all of them. Obviously, water infrastructure, sewer, the cost that some of these businesses that people want to see coming into town would have to put out and invest to make this viable. Not even just whether the town supports the business itself. Obviously, strategically where we're located, obviously with some of the Amazon, some of the other projects, we want to see as residents, more mom and pop small businesses, to get more choices. But we have such a large footprint that there's opportunities for a mix of different businesses that could really offset that tax base from where we're at now.
Well, thanks, Josh. Just, keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate it.
Josh, I have a question.
Yes.
So with the focus on bringing the businesses in, this is what my understanding with what your board is working on. Are you working on any type of the long-term goal plan of some sort? Are you concentrating on the growth steadily? Do you have something in some kind of a mechanism?
That's most of the marketing materials that we're putting together. I think we're all in agreement that our focus should be to work on that tax base. Being 80-20 right now is really not helping anything in terms of the bigger picture. And just trying to get a baseline moving forward for what the town wants to see.
But you do have some kind of a goal, long-term goal, say 5-year plan.
We have some of those now. I don't think it's on paper as a 5-year plan, but that's the direction that we're trying to move 100%.
And I'd assume once the master plan group gets going,
that's kind of
that you guys will probably plug right into that.
Sure, that's certainly going to be a help. I mean, I know some of the feedback that we got from current business owners or even some businesses that were looking to either expand or come into Charlton. Almost all of them had said it's specific to zoning in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And you actively out there looking for those specific businesses that targeting the specific businesses, or just how is your marketing? What is it based on?
We're at the point now where we could start to target those businesses. We've identified some. We've worked on some plans on incorporating maybe some interns. For some school age students that could help us be a little bit more proficient in that. Obviously, it's a volunteer board and everybody's split in different directions, but I think that was our goal in getting them on board, was to be able to do more significant outreach and move the things along a little faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Just a quick thing on that I often read online a lot, or I get questions of, I want a Trader Joe's, I want a Lowe's, I want this, I want that, and what are you as a selectman or EDC doing to do that? I can't emphasize enough that these multi-billion-dollar corporations have dedicated teams that know every single traffic count in every single town, and that's how they're making their decisions. They're not waiting for Andrew or Josh to knock on their door and say, have you ever heard of Charlton? That's not how it works. It's more of companies like Lowe's and those guys, literally, they have it down to advanced algorithms to predict exactly how much traffic is going to occur at a specific time, as well as the competitive analysis. So I only caution it, again, just to give a sense of realism, because I think a lot of people think like, oh, well, yeah, why don't we just go call them? If they were interested in us, they would call us. Now, if they want to talk tax incentives, like we were talking tips before, that often comes into play, that's when they call us. But the first thing like these larger companies look at, again, they have dedicated teams that do this. So when there are discussions, it's not like us going to knock on a door is going to help with that level of business. Now, can we poach other smaller businesses away from local communities based upon our tax rate, based upon our education, based upon our, overall location. Again, when you think about it, we have 20, 84, 169, 31, Mass Pike, all right here. That's why people are gonna continue to move here, both for living and businesses. The people know about us. It's just a question of, can we be zoned properly? Can we be supportive of these businesses? So I'm trying to just dispel that myth that like Josh or Selectman or anyone can just go knock on Lowe's door and say, hey, you probably never heard of us. They have. I guarantee it. They have a map of every single town in the state and what that means. So again, just wanted to dispel the notion and also take some of the pressure off of Josh.
We do want a Trader Joe's though. So
Yeah, okay.
If everybody
Trader
does
Joe's,
wanna call
if
them,
you're watching, you wanna
please
come out.
call them, send them emails.
It's funny. I was going to say, in terms of Bill's point, with Andrew arranged for a developer to speak with us tonight briefly, and he confirmed us that Trader Joe's is not coming here. But again, guys,
it's not due to population.
Yeah,
it's
it's
demographic.
It's not. Yeah, guys. Again, it comes down to investment. These guys are looking at the bigger picture. If they are going to commit to here, what the return on investment is, and I brought up a point earlier from my experience in owning businesses and being in shopping centers. These supermarkets and these larger anchors, even if a developer comes in here, they're not going to put a shovel into the ground until they have 3, 4, 5 major anchors to develop one site. And those businesses, they're going to come in, they're going to sign 25, 30, 40-year leases. So it's a significant investment for them. And obviously with COVID and everything that's going on, you're starting to see some of these businesses shrink. It's a tough time to convince people to shell out the kind of money that they need to with some of the issues that we have.
Thank you, Josh, I appreciate it. I get 2 more, we go to Kathy, and then our esteemed moderator.
Okay, well, we've touched on a lot of what I would cover, so I don't want to get into too much. As far as NEC, LNG goes, just to touch on that, because that is going to be the next 2 weeks is sort of the open public comment, and then the hearing will take place. One of the big things we had to determine is they've been really seeking a pilot like Millennium had. But in order to do so, they had to meet certain qualifications under Mass General Law. So Andrew and I have worked together with some attorneys, with engineers to try to get to it, because this is something that they pursued heavily here. Unfortunately, they do not qualify for that, so they cannot get a pilot. I think we finally reached that they've agreed with us on that. They could possibly seek a TIP. That is something that we can look at, but we don't have any FSB decision yet. It looks like it's imminent, but until it's really final, and then they have to do some other things with maybe planning board. We're probably going to wait from the Board of Assessors' point of view till we get a little bit closer, which might come quickly or not, depending on what happens over the next few weeks. Amazon, we're definitely working with. The Board of Assessors is looking at the exemption amount, and then working with Andrew on that as well to present to the Select Board. So that is something that likely will be in November on town meeting. So please attend and let your voice be heard. I've been working on solar cases. That was a really big thing when I took over a year ago. We had 31 appellate tax board cases on the solar farms with the valuations because they were claiming an exemption. We did settle about 25 of them last year, but then they applied for some more, so I think we're back up to 12, trying to settle those. Thankfully, the state has clarified the exemption issue. It was really originally meant to be for residences that have rooftop solar. So, for those people that have solar on the roof, that's what...
That was the original, are you kidding me?
That's really what the intent of the law was. But when that law was written, there wasn't large-scale solar farms, so...
Yeah.
So
They found a loophole and
they found that loophole. So now that's been clarified, it's on, the law is on the books. It took effect in June, but it's going to be, because it's a January 1st issue, it'll be another year before I don't have to fight with them anymore. So we're trying to settle those things and be done with them. But right now, that's kind of something that I'm looking at lots of spreadsheets and trying to negotiate those final things. What else? Let's see. The big thing in my office.
That's not enough.
Setting values. So values are up. As you all know, the market is still pretty hot and it's still pretty up. It may have stabilized a little bit, but the market is still quite high. So it's our offices to get to the bottom of setting the values before we can set the tax rate. And this year with town meeting, We have a unique amount of growth that came through in the venue of personal property. So personal property is the tax that businesses pay on furniture, fixtures, machinery, and equipment. And depending on what your status is, whether you're a manufacturer or a corporation or sole proprietor, there's different parts that you would pay. The state also values some things. They do value telephone and telegraph and some of those things. And they did hire an outside firm to do those valuations this year. And we ended up with one of the highest new growths in the state. We got a call one afternoon before a meeting and they couldn't believe it. Joanne Graziano at the Department of Revenue said, this can't be. And I said, well, so it's the MCI facility off of Northside Road that it actually houses quite a bit, but we have a significant amount of new growth that's going to boost our personal property, which will affect our CIP rate that you're looking for once I have the final values in. So it's going to be a significant amount of new growth that we'll be able to maybe do something, whether we put it into a stability infrastructure for the future or something at town meeting. I think we'll be discussing some of those things, so that's really good news for us. But valuation-wise, we're trying to complete building inspections, we visit all the sales in town, and then cyclical inspections. Each property has to get visited once every 10 years. Postcards have been sent out in the past to try to meet the certification standard. We're under certification next year. That's when the Department of Revenue kind of comes in. And those postcards met that criteria. Unfortunately, what we're finding now is a lot of these properties, because nobody ever responded to the postcards, haven't been visited in 20 plus years. And so the property goes for sale and my records are not reflecting at all what I'm seeing on the MLS. And so there's a lot of catching up that really needs to be done. So I'm trying amidst all these other things to try to get out there and do that. But it's been a little crazy to kind of get that done this year. So next year we're going to have to try to get creative. That's a need that we're going to have to really look at to figure out if things settle down, whether I can do it, or if we have to figure out a way to get those. Because that's important to get the valuations where they should be. It's not fair to honest taxpayers that we have come to their house and we have measured and we do have the right data, to ones that haven't been visited and we have incorrect data. That's an inequity that I've taken an oath to support not to happen. So it's my effort to try to make sure that everybody is paying their fair share, not more or less, but their fair share. That's how it's supposed to be. I could go on, but any questions? It's late. I know everybody's having.
No, I just want to say thanks. Like you two joined us right in the middle of chaos and some major initiatives that we're still obviously working through now. So kudos to you and the team. So
absolutely. And you've got such a bright accounting mind, but you can explain everything to us so we all understand it while we ask.
And I don't have to check your math, so it makes me happy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I think, Andrew, as Peter said, it's been great to have a development team and to have get-togethers and to have it be a community. I really appreciate that. Being a resident as well, that's important.
Thank you.
Any questions for Kevin? All right, Jeff, are you all set from before?
Yeah, I'm pretty much good. I can't really think of anything right now.
No, the Staples was a big
Just jump.
Actually, we did get a grant. We did get a grant, and we're in the process of implementing it at the library. And this is where I'm running into, the parts aren't going to be until November. I ordered them a month ago. But we did get a grant from the state to pay for 60%, excuse me, of the networking infrastructure at the library, along with a bandwidth upgrade. So they'll have faster speeds, better Wi-Fi, better routing used at the library.
Cool. Awesome. That's awesome. Awesome. Good. I love
as soon as I get the parts.
And we have something that's also called hotspots that we.
Yeah, well, those
I still have a flip phone, so.
That's great.
If you want to know anything about hotspots, you go to the library, you talk to the people who know what's going on.
Very cool.
That's cool.
All right, let's finish up with our favorite moderator, Noreen Johnson.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you all. Just very briefly, thank you all for everything that you do for the town. I mean, this meeting is so indicative. It takes a village to run a town, and there's probably 400 people who aren't in this room who are also working hard every day to support this community. So thanks to everyone. And we always need more people. So as town moderator, I do run meetings, but I also try to promote civic engagement and people getting involved in the community. And so we do have a town meeting coming up. I would like to explore a few different options for how we plan our town meetings in the future, including surveying the voters around the best time of day and day of the week. There are communities like Wayland that hold their town meetings on Sundays at 12:30. So folks go to church and then they go to town meeting. It's something to think about when it gets to be 8:45 at night and we're already saying we're tired. Try running a meeting and it's 9:30 or 9, and goes up until 11. It's hard for people to pay attention. It's hard for them to stay engaged. It's hard for seniors. It's hard for people with young children. So I would like to revisit that together and get input from the community to find out what works best for the most number of people in order to maximize participation at the meetings, because we've had small turnout. Part of that's COVID, but part of that is also informing people, communicating, and encouraging people to come. So to that point, I'd also like to add that I hope some of our ARPA money can be used for website enhancements. The website is very difficult to find information on, and if you search on a term or you're looking, you want to know about that new Amazon development that might be coming, or you want to know something else and you want to figure out how to participate as a citizen, it is almost impossible. And so I would really like to encourage us to think about a new platform on which we share information so that the town can feel informed and then be inspired to participate more.
It's fun you asked or mentioned it, because I believe it was either
Us too.
Basha and or Patsy, I think both, have, and that is a goal for Andrew this year, is to try to take a look and see what we can do.
Thank you.
I think it's already in progress. He's working on it.
No, it's already being.
Yeah,
worked.
yeah, there has been upgrades going on over the last.
But your point is well
month.
taken.
It's easy to claim
Absolutely.
people don't care, that's why they don't come.
Yeah.
That's not true. People often aren't informed and don't know how to get informed. So that's really important. Additionally, we have one opening on the Finance Committee right now, and I have the honor of appointing qualified members to serve on the Finance Committee. I want to thank publicly Joe Spiewak for his outstanding work on the Finance Committee, and he has recently resigned as he's changed his point of residence, so point of primary residence. So we do have an opening if you have referrals or individuals who have an accounting and finance background, have experience working on boards. I would love to hear from you. It's not a great board to start as a newbie if you don't have experience, so this is really looking for that financial acumen among our residents. And I have a few candidates, but I'm always interested in talking to more. And then finally, I didn't hear it earlier, so I just want to thank the folks that did the Old Home Day event. What a fantastic, cheerful, come as you are moment for the town of Charlton after this pandemic. It was so nice to see that people could be out and be safe, be masked or not masked if they were comfortable and vaccinated, hopefully. But it was a terrific event, and I know there was a whole committee behind that, and want to just thank them very much for that. I think this is a great town, great spirit, and it's because of all the people in this room and those who aren't here right now. Thanks.
Thanks, Noreen. Any questions for Noreen? Any obscurities around parliamentary procedure and the town meeting times or whatever it's called?
To that point, those who know how the meetings work can help run the meetings and or push the meetings in certain directions. So, if anyone would like a primer on town meeting time, and just to be clear, we do not use Robert's Rules of Order. There is a difference in the procedure. So if anyone would like to go over town meeting time, I'd be happy to host a fun session to walk through how that works, or do something with the schools, but to help people get familiar with how those meetings are run and when you can and can't object or change direction or propose an amendment. I'd be happy to go over that.
All right, any last questions? I know we've been here a while, which I appreciate everybody staying.
I think Drew should say something.
Yeah, Drew. Drew is awesome, and he's never, and he hates being on TV, so we're not going to put him on. That being said,
I would just like to I'd like to thank Noreen for what you do for the town. You are just cool under pressure. You run a fantastic town meeting, or school committee meeting for that matter. You're just very focused. It's just, you're like the perfect moderator. They should, other towns should.
Thank you very
mold
much.
you.
Big credit to the school committee and the superintendent and assistant superintendent for really listening to people, for being so careful, and for conducting such a wonderful opportunity for public input.
Yeah.
And then hopefully town meeting, I know where my authority lies. So at that meeting, I was not quite as clear. At town meeting, that is the benefit of being the moderator. It's my meeting. So everybody participate, but we're going to follow the rules and work together to make it successful. And I really appreciate that. Thanks.
You keep every meeting moving and enjoyable. You do a good job at that. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you everyone for attending tonight. I know it's been a long meeting. We only do this once a year, but I think it's really important. Again, for at least one night, it's kind of like Christmas Eve. Like we all get together like one another and actually can kind of figure it out. We can all go back to arguing tomorrow. Anything else from my colleagues? No? No, we're good? Anyway, thank you all. Drive home safely. And again, thank you for everything you do. See you, everybody.